क्लास 10 बजे से स्टार्ट होगा, है ना, जो आपका ट्रेनिंग स्टार्ट होता है वर्कशॉप। तब तक यदि बच्चों किसी को डाउट है कोई प्रीवियस क्लास से तो पूछ सकते हैं, हैंड रेज कर सकते हैं, ठीक है। या डाउट नहीं है तो बच्चों वेट कर लीजिए, 1-2 मिनट में स्टार्ट होगा आपका ट्रेनिंग, ठीक है।
Good morning, sir. I think I am audible.
Yes, sir. At least.
Yeah, you. Allah. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, just a minute. So actually, all the participants are muted, and that's why that's the case. Yeah, so we are now in the final day of this workshop, and as promised, this is going to be industrial perspective sessions day. That is a couple of people from industry, like reputed organization, and those who are engaged in state of art software development and the use of technology. And they also like know that what kind of technology will come and what kind of technology will go out. So we are fortunate to have Mr. Alabaksh. Alabaksh is a product technical architect, in fact, principal product technical architect at Strategic Technology Group at Infosys. And he is there for more than 15 years in Infosys. And in his present role, he is responsible for evaluating the key technologies which Infosys is actually using it. So before, like Infosys used some technology, some new technology, he is one of the main people who experiment with the technology and will ensure that, okay, this technology is can be used for developing the product for Infosys. Alabaksh has been awarded Best Intern, Mentor, and Best Innovator Award in Infosys. And he is also like involved in cutting edge research and some like effort we have participated with together to develop some technologies. So I welcome Alabaksh. Very good morning to Alabaksh. And
thank you, sir.
And yes, it's your platform. Now you start sharing your screen and go ahead, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir, for the introduction. Let me do one thing. I'll share my screen first. And team, if you have any question, please feel free to ask.
So Alabaksh, the arrangement is, I mean, we keep participants muted in the sense like they will raise their hands. So you can see their hands raised.
Okay.
Right. So if you see the participants, right, go to the participant tab, and those who would like to ask any question, they will raise their hand, and you can go to them, and you can put this button ask to unmute, and that particular participant will be unmuted, and he can ask question. The problem is like we have so many participants, and sometimes without their, I mean, because of some ignorance or some reason, their mic remain unmuted, and we get a lot of noise, background noise also.
Okay.
So that is the arrangement of this these lectures. You can, in between, you can stop and you can see the participants, and you'll see the hands raised, and you can go to any participant and ask them to unmute. So there's like there is a button ask to unmute, if you can see that.
Yes, sure, sir.
So that when you will click that, then that particular participant can be unmuted. I mean, can unmute himself or herself and ask a question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, sir, for the great introduction. I'm Alap Baksh, as sir mentioned. I work as a principal product architect at Infosys. While at Infosys, the entire, what we call it as a platform.
While have
When
passed.
I call it as a platform, I'll tell you what is a
Many, yeah.
platform first, and then I'll actually start working on it, because it's quite important to understand the basic difference between platform, product, and app, because then we will start seeing that where it gets used. Because the title of the talk is Python in real world, right? So let's start. And as sir mentioned, please raise your hand. I have kept a tab on the participant list, so I will be able to see it. And once I come to a logical conclusion of that topic, I'll actually try to answer it, the question which you'll have. Okay. So, uh, let's actually get started with saying that what is the platform. So you have seen the railway platforms, or you have seen the malls, right? Malls are big platforms where you have multiple different stores within the mall, right? Like for example, you will see within the mall there is a food court. Within the mall, you have a what you call the for the kids, you have a playing ground or a playing station, or you would see that there are certain um, stores within the entire mall. Now, when you see this entire mall, some of the things are provided by mall authority, like the security of the mall, right? Like when you enter the mall, you will be actually you would be asked to go through that metal detector. You would be frisked and then check whether if you are carrying anything, your baggage is checked, and then you are allowed inside. Similarly, now in the COVID days, if you are actually visiting a mall, and when it is allowed, then you would be asked to actually at the entrance there would be a temperature check. You are asked to actually take the sanitizer, apply it to your hand, and then move. And then the check on whether you are wearing mask or no. All these things are done at the entrance of the mall. So what mall does, and the mall also provides you certain to the stores which are there, basic facilities, right? Basic amenities, I would say that. So it would have a security, which I have told. It would have your restrooms, which all the stores in the mall need not build. You would have the water supply or drinking water and other water supply, which is supposed to be there. You would have a central electricity and the power backup available. So what you do is you just actually take the power plug, and then you will have a meter for that, and then you apply it. Rest of the things for the power backup and everything is provided by the mall, right? So what essentially you are doing it, you are actually providing the stores which are being set up within the mall an ability to create the stores very quickly. The nitty-gritties of it, which means that some of the things like power supply, security, and everything is taken care by the entire mall authority itself. Why? Because at a centrally, if I actually undertake those kind of a thing, the business can concentrate on the store can concentrate on their business rather than actually going ahead and then saying, okay, where do I get the security? I should hire a security guard. I have to pay for that and all those things. And then you pay the platform fees, you pay the mall fees, saying that okay, I'm actually paying the entire maintenance fees, or I'm paying for the store fees, which by default actually goes, some part of it goes to the mall authorities. So that's the entire thing. And then you will find it in many large complexes. If you build, you will find there's something very similar. It's also similar to your railway platforms. If you see railway platforms, you have basic amenities like I said, restrooms, the facility for the water, and the facility for your electricity. What you do is you put a store over there, and then or any other thing, and then you get started. So platform provides you basic amenities. Similarly, when we talk about in software, the software platforms, we say that okay, basic amenities are provided by the platform or the components which are there behind below it, right? It could be the security, which means the login part of it, which I said, which we will see that the login part of it. Then you would have different other thing, login and logging, right? What is happening, telemetry, like how the platform is behaving, how many people entered, how many people exited, how many people actually shopped. That is a telemetry which I could give, like what's happening in the real thing. And then you would have other information saying that at what time the entire mall gate is open, which means that there will be different policies which gets applied at the platform level. So this is the platform capability in the software, and then I have actually tried to see what exactly it matches to a real world. So when we talk about any platform, we talk about these are the things which the platform provide. And for different people, platform is different, right? Like for example, the abstraction which you would look at it, it is a different. For example, people say Java platform, which means that Java or Python platform, which means that entire ecosystem around the Java and the Python is what you call about is a Java platform or Python platform, right? But people actually again go and then say that, okay, Java provides me an ability to access the file, threads, or Python provides me ability to access the file system, irrespective of whether it is on Windows, Linux, or Mac. It would actually take the nitty-gritties by itself. It provides me a way to make the threads work that is provided by the platform itself. It provides me a way to actually do the remote procedure call or make a restful call, and all the underlying, whether it's http2, http3, or http 1.1, all these things are taken care by the platform itself, like Python as a platform. That is what we think about it, right? So while I said a bit about the Python as a platform, Python for us is a programming language plus Python, and then people build multiple business specific platforms on it, right? And what we are going to talk right now after this is what is the business specific platform which are built on top of a Python, right? Which are libraries or something which are built on top of a Python. So for example, if you see, these are the, if you overall see what are the places where Python gets used, these are in data sciences, big data.
Am I audible, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
जो आपने पाइथन जो भी देखा, तो आप पाइथन के बारे में जहाँ इंडस्ट्री में कहाँ कहाँ यूज है उसका, किस सेक्टर में उसका डिमांड है, वो चीजें बताई जाएगी, जैसे डेटा साइंस, बिग डेटा, ऑटोमेशन, स्क्रिप्ट वेब एप्लीकेशंस, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, ये तो ये सारे क्या है, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इंडस्ट्री है जहाँ पे पाइथन का यूज होता है। ठीक है, तो आप लोग केयरफुली देखिएगा बच्चों, जो भी चीजें बताई जा रही है एकदम केयरफुली ध्यान दीजिएगा, और लास्ट में आपको समराइज कर दूंगा। ठीक है,
automation, scripting, web, and infrastructure. There could be many other places where you would find the application of Python, but right now for this one we would actually speak about this. And when I say that, okay, these are the PySpark, I have mentioned it in the bracket, it does not mean that it is limited to PySpark. You would actually see a multiple visualization, analysis, and other things which uses Python. Let's actually start with why Python actually gets used, right? Why not some other language for these use cases? Can other language will be much more powerful than this? Yes or no, right? And while these are there are programming language like C, C++, Java, C Sharp, and many more. Why someone is right now, everyone is talking about Python. So first thing I'll actually just talk about is the data science libraries, right? So yeah,
Yeah, can you full screen that? I mean,
yeah, I'll actually full screen it. Okay, let me actually do this. Yeah, is this fine?
yes, thank you.
Yeah. So while we are talking about the data, why Python, right? Why Python? You actually read 4 days. You had a course where professors actually spoke about Python and the skill, the some of the nitty-gritties of the Python, right? When I say nitty-gritties of the Python, like how did you actually do an object-oriented thing? What are the lists? What is the tuple? And all those stuff. But why should I actually read the Python? What is the industry use case of it? And why not actually Java or Django, or when Django, I say Django about it, it is more Python itself, but not some other frameworks in the Java or C Sharp or Go ecosystem, right? While all the other ecosystems are good, Python actually right now is a major language which is being used across the board. And here are some of the example, right? So let's actually talk about the data sciences with the or what I call AI based on the Python, right? So why data science Python is being used? The question is, why not, there is a R as a programming language, there's a Java as a programming language, there is a different other programming language which are there in uh, available for us to use it. Why only the Python? The reason goes back, right, as a Python, or we what we call as a Pythonic in nature for some of these things is Python provides you an easy interface. When I say easy interface, it has a lot of loaded words in it, right? Easy interface when we call. One, it is easy to program or easy to learn. If you see any of the colleges which offer now Python as a first language, they say that, okay, I would teach Python as a first language. And when I say Python as a first language, they say that, okay, problem solving using Python. And not only now, across the globe, from last 7 or 8 years, Python is being taught as a first programming language for many of the people. For some few of the people, C becomes a first programming language. Like for us, because we are from when we actually started our career, it might be or our undergrad program. That time, C used to be the only language which could easily interface with the hardware. And then if you have to do anything with the hardware, like machine, you are going to get the speed of this machine, you could get the any other details from the machine. Preferably we used to use C rather than Python and any language. But now Python provides you bindings. When I say bindings, Python will work along with C++ or Java by providing appropriate wrappers to work with it. And hence people are preferring Python. And then it is lesser a language overload, right? When I say what is a lesser in a language overload, by which I means that the language is simple in nature. It can be actually used. You don't have a lot more verbose code. When I say verbose code, if you see Java as in a language, if you have to actually write a simple program, what you start with public class, and then the class name, and then in that you will actually declare a static method called main, and within the method you would actually go ahead and then write the code saying that system.out.println whatever is hello, this one. Whereas in Python I'll just say print bracket and then I'll say that hello world kind of a thing. So the language is less verbose in nature, which means that you would write less code, concise code, and go forward. Now while I speak about it, I just this one, most of the people which I have seen in last 3-4 years recruitment, well, they actually appear for the competitive coding exam. They prefer using Python because of its concise in nature. It is easy, and then they can test it easily in the IDE which is there. Not that everyone uses that, but many of the people do use Python as a programming language, though it does not matter which programming language you use. But so that actually shows that many people from the academic background are choosing Python as a first language and then moving forward. Right now, and for data sciences, when I say data sciences, we actually say that, okay, data sciences does not only involve deep learning. You would actually have a machine learning part of it. You would have some statistical analysis and all those stuff. People have started using different languages which are there in it. The people had actually earlier using R as a programming language, right? R was a very, very good statistical language. Still it is being used. And then it has also interface with R Shiny to visualize some of the data points which you will actually get, or the graph you want to draw, or any other things, right? But Python has becoming mainstream over there also, because not only the data science people, it is easier for use to data science people, but for other people also, right? Like students or for any other, it is easier, so that people can actually write that code, debug it there itself, rather than running the entire program and then figure it out, okay, this is the right function, yes or no. And at the core of the Python, right, you have the Python interpreter which is running. And this interpreter, you could actually is a powerful interpreter, and that is actually doing a lot of the magic. Now while I'm here, one of the thing which happens is you will write the program in Python. For example, if you say you are writing a TensorFlow, which is one of the deep learning library which people use, or PyTorch or Cafe2 or anything of that sort, then what happens is internally these programs use C and C++, right? So the core part of it is a C, C++. There is a Python binding on top of it. OpenCV is a great example for it. Like OpenCV is core is written in C, C++, which is a performant in nature. And while it is a performant in nature, at the core part of it, the Python binding is just to actually give you an ability to program very quickly and then do. So it uses the best of the breed. Like it is still close to the hardware, still close to the processor, and on top of it you have a wrapper of Python. So it's a close to the data scientists, close to the statistical people, close to us kind of a thing. Now, that being said, the other thing which happens is, right, when these program, like you write the program in TensorFlow and other things, these are right now, when once you write it for um, machine independent or the processor independent way, right? Like you don't say that, okay, this program is running on a GPU or CPU in your program, unless until you know that it is going to run only on you actually keep it more or less it could run on CPU, it would take more time, and then on GPU it would take lesser time. You don't use any GPU specific instructions unless until you want to do something very performant.
बच्चों म्यूट कर लीजिए आप लोग। संदीप कुमार।
Right? So what happens once you do that, write this in Python, there are different libraries. Like Intel has something called as the OpenVINO. You write the program, you build a model, and then you pass this model from OpenVINO. What you get is very specific machine dependent code, which could be run on the OpenVINO runtime, right? So it would be what you get can run exactly very fast on say Intel CPUs, or say that Intel FPGAs, field programmable gate array, or say that it would run very quickly on the Intel neural compute stick, which is a deep learning accelerator which you have. So all these things, right, which I spoke about the FPGA, these are the way where I could execute, or I could actually interpret this entire model or inference this model very, very fast by utilizing the core part of or core fundamentals of this FPGAs or anything. And all these things is possible because I'm writing just a one Python code, and then I'll say, okay, you want to run it on a FPGA, let me actually pass it with OpenVINO, and then I'll give you. You want to run it on a Intel neural compute stick, I'll actually run it through and then give it to you. Now tomorrow we are actually coming up with when I say we as an industry is coming up with a Habana. Habana is one of the deep learning accelerator which is there, and that is written in the Python. You have the Python stuff, and then you actually pass it through a Habana runtime, and then you'll get Habana specific binaries which you could actually run it on the Habana very, very fast. So they have specifically Gaudi processors which actually train your thing as like a GPU, right? So those are the kind of stuff which Python gives you, and hence it is being used for data science as a language, right? And while all these things are good, I spoke about what are the challenges in serving this model in production, right? While the coding and everything is good, we wanted to actually have a much performant while actually it gets served in the this one, and hence we actually pass it through very specific tools which are there for a large scale usage, not for the small scale usage. For large scale usage, like as I spoke about OpenVINO toolkit, I could actually use something very specific to CUDA to actually do things better over there. So all these things are possible, and that makes Python very, very good for the data science use cases which are there. And then you have seen a multiple library, mushrooms of library coming up. TensorFlow, PyTorch, Cafe2 are some of the example, and there are others which are actually having a Python binding or gives you a way to write this entire data science part of it, right? Like create a let's say create a neural network very quickly in the using this library, using the Python as a part of it, right? So hence it's being widely used in the data science. any question till now, I will be happy to take before I move to any next slide. I can't see if there are any question, but so
So, so there is some,
okay, yeah.
some questions here. Mr. Srinath.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Srinath, I think I muted you by mistake, so I'm asking you to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I just unmuted. Can you hear me, Allabaksh?
Yeah, I can hear.
Yeah. Hey, thank you very much for that initial introduction. Very, very informative. You are in the industry, and I'm just curious. You mentioned, bindings for Python, the ability to work with other languages. You mentioned OpenVINO, where things can get compiled into the native Intel processor code. With these kind of things, are we becoming agnostic to language choice, even within a single application development environment? Because in the past, we would say, hey, this application is on a Java stack. I need to find Java skill set. But today, with these kind of things, are we agnostic to that? And we say, hey, we don't really care. We can develop in any language and have a heterogeneous stack, even within a single application in a production environment. Are you beginning to see a lot more of that, Allabaksh?
This is a very good question. Yes, to some extent, yes, I would say that with the complete advent of microservices, where we say that you bring your own container, I would know how do I actually run this container properly, and then you have all your program packaged in it and then running it. So all the Kubernetes of the world or Docker, what it does is you get a container, you put your Python code, you put your code in Go and everything. We don't usually care much till the telemetry is coming. You are scaling it up, right? You can actually work with this one, and then we get to just give the request to it and then get the response, which is completely through RESTful API or your gRPC or anything. Yes, we are seeing a lot more of these things, but at same point, I would say that many of the clients, or you would say that other people, they do say that, okay, this is my stack, which is there. Like I'm a Java shop, what they call it. I'm a Java shop. I actually do everything in Java, so I could hire people for the Java. Now you want to actually, if you can build it in Java, it is very good. But for data sciences, I would actually say that most of the people do go ahead with Python and then do it. While I'm saying this, there are libraries which actually you say, let's run in Python, develop it in Python, while my runtime could be I could actually write the wrappers on it, like what you mentioned, right? DJL is one of the wrapper, right? Deep Java library, or there is from the AWS, which allows you to actually have the Python model built using Python, and then it will actually take runtime of TensorFlow or runtime of your MXNet or of PyTorch, and then run this model appropriately over there. And then while it is becoming a package, and then we'll say that, okay, this is a package which I'm running. So I need not be actually saying that, okay, I can't run this because it is a .NET, written in .NET, and I don't have a Windows running on it, or I'm a .NET core, so I have to actually have a I can run it on a Linux. Earlier, this was another problem where I would say that, okay, I'm running a Windows server, I'm running a ASP.NET application. I can't actually have things which are running in my environment like this, because I have to maintain a separate complete stack for doing this. Yes, you are right. We are seeing some of these things in the industry.
Thank you so much, Allabaksh.
Thank you.
Jagjit.
Yeah. Good morning, sir.
Yes.
Actually, I have a question about that programming perspective. Actually, you know that, sir, PHP is a web development language, also a server-side language. That means I want to know that PHP and Python, and I want to build a ERP application in web development. Can you suggest me that which language is better for me to do ERP packages?
Okay. Hi, Jigit. So see, when we talk about an ERP package, the question would be for whom you are developing, right? And what part of it you are developing. While the front end of all these things is like what runs in the browser is nothing but JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, which actually get interpreted over there. Apart from that, there is nothing which goes in the browser. The backend, you could actually use Python or PHP. Now, when I say which choice you would make between these two, I would suggest you would make a Python as a choice for the entire backend. If you have the choice to actually select the technology, Python would be much better as compared to the PHP for this backend thing which is there, because you would actually find multiple frameworks like of a ERP, like Odoo is one of the framework which is there. There are other frameworks which are written in Python to utilize it and then run this entire stuff in the appropriately. So while you choose a framework or choose a language, you see a lot more things, right? You see what is the community around it, how people are actually contributing it, what is the what is the if I'm putting a framework, how are the other people taking it, whether it is being patched rightly, what is the next version release, whether it's happening properly, who it is backing, is it backed by Google, is it backed by Microsoft? uh, so there are other things which you would see before you go forward with it. So I would prefer, if in my choice, if it is given, I would prefer Python between PHP and Python.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank
Mr. Nishya?
Good morning, sir.
you.
So my question is, like today we are learning Python, and so what is the scope? How much is the scope of Python? Because as we see that Python is now a buzzword and it is really high in demand. So, but for every language, there comes a time that when it is at its peak, and then it dies eventually. And nowadays we have also learned that giant tech giants like Google and Microsoft are developing some no code development platforms where there will be no need of developers in future in case of lack of developers. So in that case, what will be the scope of Python in the future context?
Okay, very good question. Yeah, you see the language actually evolves, right? It's not about a language actually stay very this one. When I take the example of a Java, and then language evolves because of the community around it. It does not evolve by itself. If there is no community backing it up, the language does not evolve. And language is suited. Usually, a language is suited for one or two specific purposes, which is there. Like for example, we started with C C++, which was very powerful, was very good for writing system routines, and then the things which are like for the hardware, you would actually go ahead and then write it. Routing thing would go ahead and then write core algorithms in it because they are very fast. Right now, with the C++ language also evolved. It became much more complex, and hence people said, okay, can I actually have another language for the work which I'm doing, right? Like for example, the work at that point of time was building an enterprise application, and then Java actually was the language. It was easy to pick up. There was a lot of community, and then Java came into existence. Programming language of a choice for most of the enterprise grade application which are there, while the C remains the language where you would actually write the database. You would go ahead and then write the networking stack of yours, or you would use Go nowadays in many of the things. Like if you say the Docker and the Kubernetes of the world, it has been written in the Go. So if you choose a language for what purpose you are doing it, and at that 10 years, language remains very active for 10 to 15 years or so, where it actually evolves certainly, and then it gets the community actually drives it and then makes it very popular. After that, it sees, if it does not catch up with the community expectation, you will see the decline. Now the next big thing would be obviously quantum computing, and how, what language bindings you will see, what is the language of choice. Either we'll use Q sharp for that, or what kind of quantum language which we'll use. For Python, yes, it's reaching its peak, and then it's going to actually be used for the most of the work which we'll do in the data sciences right now. Not only data sciences, you would see that most of the startup use like framework like Flask or Django or Fast to actually build their web application appropriately. Like application, test it out with say 1,000 or 2,000 of users, see it's scaling well and all those stuff, whether they have actually solved the problem which they were supposed to solve. Once they figure it out that the problem which they were supposed to be solved is being solved by that thing, then they will say, okay, what is the reason why it's not scaling, or when I am going for a VC, what do I get? And then they will change the stack. But eventually they start with, okay, Python or any other language which give them a very quick start time, and Python does that very well.
Okay, okay. Thank you for clarification.
Thanks.
Alabak, so let's move to further. Otherwise, and we have many other people ready to
Sure.
ask question, and then I definitely think that this session going to be quite interactive. But can you quickly cover, and then we'll take some questions.
Sure, I'll actually quickly cover and then we'll take the question. So the other part of it, which we will talk about the the AI part of it, or data sciences part of it. The other thing is the big data. When I actually talk about the big data, I'm talking about the terabytes of data or petabytes of the data, based on the industry in which you are working, which clients you are working, and other stuff which is there, right? So in this case, you would have the data which is coming at the speed. So when we talk about a big data, it actually comes with the we say three V's: velocity, volume, and another thing which actually gives the big data a problem to be solved, right? Like, for example, if you are getting the data from the sensors, and these sensors are actually pushing the data in real time, this is going to be a huge data which gets generated. Like, just take a YOLO as a bike example, or your Ola as a Ola as a car example. If the sensors which are there in these cars, or the sensors which are there in these bikes, actually gives telemetry about the bike condition, the road condition, and other details. If they start pushing it, and then you take this for thousands or 10,000 of these cars or these vehicles, and then try to crunch it appropriately, then this become a big data problem, because you have, and that kind of a stuff actually requires you to write the algorithm or write the routines which are very fast. You could actually test it and then plug it. With Python, you could actually do it easily. Like, though when you talk about a framework like Spark or Hadoop is written in Java, Spark is written in a language called Scala. But all these have a way to actually connect with Python and then run this entire algorithms or the entire routines very quickly in the Python, right? And when I talk about this big data, I also talk about the visualization part of it, right? Like, when we see any of these large dashboard, which actually gives you a view of what's happening presently, what is the trend, and all those stuff, a graph like a structure, and what we have shown over there, what are the keywords which are coming from the query, what are the search keywords which are coming from the query, then you would need something to actually visualize it. And the frameworks which are written in that, and which actually manipulate these large amount of data, are also in Python. For an open source framework, to name it, is Apache Superset, which actually allows you to draw the or visualize the entire data in different format and different ways, and then gives you real-time information about the data, right? And these frameworks itself are written in Python, so that you can actually easily change it if you require, or write other routines on top of it and then modify if it is required. And apart from that, we talked about the previously things like data sciences, right? So the packages which are for data sciences, like say SciPy, NumPy, or Pandas, or anything, actually are written in Python, and has a binding for Python. And then hence what happens, these entire Spark or Hadoop kind of a stuff can easily use this frameworks with Python, and then crunch the data which is there. And also, it is a very concise language which is there, right? You need not actually write a large amount of boilerplate code or generate the boilerplate code to do that. And one of the things which in industry, which we say, if your code is less, the bugs which are introduced are less, right? And the other way of saying that, if it can be explainable, you can easily find it out and then understand it, then it is easier to even debug, and then there are lesser problems which are there. And hence people do go for Python and then figure it out what's happening in it. Now, as we speak about the big data, we spoke about what are the issues with it, how did we do, and then we have Spark as a framework, or Hadoop as a framework, or Apache Beam, which can actually run whatever you code in this one on Spark or Storm or any other SASMA or something of that sort. It actually gives you an ability to code in a single language. and then run that on any other platform of your choice which is there. Now, the second part of it is the automation part of it. While most of the things which are right now we see are driven by the APIs, right? You have APIs which you are exposing, REST APIs which you are exposing on gRPC. There have been a lot of work which has been done prior to this entire API based exposure of your business. There are a lot of work which has been done where there were no APIs. The entire rendering of the entire data used to happen and at the backend, and then the backend used to split the HTML and JavaScript which gets rendered in the browser. And for that we don't have a way to consume these APIs directly, right? So what you'll have a web page, and this web page, what you need to do is you need to go click yes, click all the things to do the work which is around it. And this becomes a challenging, because if you want to even test it or you want to do a repetitive work, like for example, I have to actually go ahead, search a number, check whether let's take a very simple example, that you have an electricity board, and then the person comes and says that okay, have these guys paid the bill, yes or no? And for doing this, what would happen is like you have to take it, search one by one, figure it out whether they paid the bill, yes or no. And based on that, they would actually make a call to these people saying that you haven't paid the bill. Now, doing it manually, searching these numbers would take a huge amount of time. So you have a robotic framework or automation framework which will actually take this number from the Excel or whichever format it is, go search, scrape the screen, say yes, paid, yes, no, and then plot it in a or put it in an Excel. And after that, the telephone can be automated saying that through an IVR saying that okay, please pay your bill on time, otherwise your electricity bill will be disconnected. So there are a lot of automation use cases or robotic frameworks which actually use Python as a core language, because it is quick and dirty to write and then go ahead and then work with the thing. Okay. That brings us to the scripting, right? Like I could actually write scripts very quickly for cleaning of the data, for emailing, for multiple other stuff which is there. And apart from that, building pipelines. When I say building pipelines, which means that if you take any of the application, you would see a workflow in it in many of the cases, right? First, perform step number one. After step number one gets completed, go to the step number two, step number three. A simple example for that is like, let's actually talk about your school fees or college fees which we pay, right? So you actually take an admission, you have an admission, you would actually say that okay, this is my roll number or university number, and once you give that, the person asks you, uh, have you paid the this one? So if you have paid, please give the challan, or otherwise go and then pay for a challan. Till that point of time, he has actually kept your application or your form besides him, and then he actually address another candidate or another student by that time. And then you go to the bank, you pay, and then come back, and then he'll pull out and then say okay, this is paid. Now next step is like okay, take these books or take this library card, and then you would actually take the receipt or the library card directly, or you go to the library and then get the library. So there is a workflow for it. Similarly, for the data also, there is a workflow which is there. Like you would actually take the data, you would clean up the data, and then you go forward to do specific work which have been designed. And for this entire pipe, what we call it is in a pipeline, right? One after another step which should happen, or in a way that if there is a some logic to actually break that work and then go forward, all these things would be there. And over there you will transform the data, you will manipulate the data, you will change it in a different way, and all these things actually require a quick scripting, and that can be done easily with Python. And the Python is very good to create lambda function, which are small concise function. You can actually make an API call very quickly and all those, and hence people prefer the Python. It is not that other language like Java or any other things don't have the lambda function. They do have, but with entire pipelines. So for example, if I take Apache Airflow, which is a way to decide a workflow, you could write the Python pipelines in it, and then you could run. If you actually take any other tools like that, you could quickly make the scripting, run it, connect two of the blocks which are there, which takes the data, manipulates the data, and then gives the another this one which process the data. That can be easily done by the Python, and then you could test it easily and then run it. So that's the reason we go to the we use this. So now if there are any questions till now, I'll take it up and then I'll go to the, or otherwise I'll complete the infrastructure provisioning and then go ahead and then take the question which are there. So I will bring the logical conclusion to the entire work. So when we talk about infrastructure provisioning, just give me a minute, sorry. So what is the infrastructure provisioning which we are talking about, right? So in large, there was a question earlier, right, where we were talking about um, uh, if these are microservices or these are the servers which I need to handle, large amount of servers, right, the hundreds of servers or 30 or 40 servers. It's practically impossible to actually provision it manually. People do manual provision, but it becomes quite a difficult. So what you do is you actually write your provisioning, which means that starting of the server, shutting down of the server, applying patch, all these things, you write it as a code, right? You would actually write the code for it, and this code gets applied, and then you would get the infrastructure. For example, if I have to go ahead and then start 10 servers and then install, say, a tool called Kafka or a tool called Hadoop, I would not usually go and then on an individual machine install the packages, connect these machines. I usually don't do. I would actually provision this entire infrastructure with likes of Terraform, which would actually go ahead, spin up 10 VMs simultaneously. After the VMs are ready, which is the infrastructure has booted, I'll use Ansible or some other tool where I would actually install Hadoop or whatsoever software it is there, configure it as a cluster and make me available, right? So this is what likes of Terraform and Ansible does. There are different tools like that which would do the infrastructure provisioning. These are common tools which can work with, Amazon Web Services, could work with Google Cloud platform, GCP, could work with Azure, which are there. Uh, but if you want to actually do it more than that, right, after that you would actually want to actually, after provisioning, you want to monitor it, saying that, okay, what is the memory, what is the CPU utilization, what are the things, is the disk is becoming completely full, should I actually take a backup of the logs which have been generated, which are not flowing into the log infrastructures because of certain challenges, whether the network stability is good, yes or no. So how do I actually manage this entire infrastructure? Python gives you a lot many tools, right, the libraries which will allow you to do these things seamlessly. So that's the part where we talk about entire infrastructure provisioning, not only the provisioning like of a Puppet and then the Terraform or Ansible, but also to monitor it and then to see that how these things are running smooth, whether they are running smoothly, yes or no, whether the required functionality is happening, yes or no. All these things can be easily looked from the Python perspective. Now I'll take a pause over here before I jump into the Python language part of it to give, to take any questions which are there, and then I'll move forward with it.
There are some questions, Mr. Sanmukh, Andhra Sanmukh. Can you please unmute and ask your question?
Actually, hello, sir.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
right.
please go ahead.
Mic on,
Yeah, it's audible.
Sir, actually, I completed my master's in geophysics. It's a totally related to earth sciences, means geological modeling. It's how it is the Python. Hello, sir.
Sorry, the last part of it I didn't get.
Geological modeling, sir.
So
Okay.
Earth modeling, sir. Earth modeling, the structures, layers, plate tectonics, like that, sir. How Python, which library is best, sir?
So I might not know for a geological perspective, but I know
Means 3D, sir. 3D structures structures, like 3D structures, 3D modeling.
Okay. See, I might not know this specifically for the geological model,
Okay.
but I know there are tools where the layers of the earth, right, for the mining part of it, we used to use. I have seen people using it. This, I think, QGIS, OpenGIS are some of the tools. I'm not sure whether these are the relevant tool for you. One of the tool actually use the Python scripting. You could actually plug that as a model and then run that your Python models over there. So that's possible, at least, which I know for. I think QGIS or something is a open source. So QGIS, I think, and then ArcGIS is something which is commercially available. QGIS is something open source, and then you could use some of the things. I don't know whether it solves your problem part of it, but yes, some of the tools which used to see what are the layers of it, and then plan the putting of the pipelines and all those stuff, do use these tools, and then they have the Python library for it.
Professor Mallikarjuna, can you please unmute?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, Allah Baksar, good morning, sir. This is Professor Mallikarjun. We have invited you for Reva University along with Dr. Srinivas Padmanabhani as a speaker, sir. Hope you remember me.
Yeah, sir.
Okay, sir. Sir, here is my question. How far Python is compatible for developing and simulating wireless sensor network based applications, sir?
For wireless sensor based network application, I should come back to you. I have not I don't have much experience in it, or I don't know much libraries which are being used over there. So I'll come back to you on this, sir, on this topic. I have not much knowledge around that.
So Professor Mallikarjun,
Okay.
you may please put this on the discussion forum, and we will definitely get back to you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Vipin Kumar, can you please unmute? Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir.
Yes.
Sir, my question is related automation. Actually, we are in the automation industry and we provide the solution to our client, and we are selecting the technology RPA automation anywhere UI path. Now we are thinking that we will use Python. So my question is that what is the scope of the Python if we are using Python instead of RPA technology?
See, when you talk about any RPA technology, it's nothing but a robotic automation framework which you are talking. First thing is your client. What is the client? If you are selling a product and if you are saying that I'll actually do it as a service, then it's a different. If you say that, okay, the client say that, okay, I want it in a specific UI path itself, or I want in any other robotic framework, then you should actually talk to the client and then figure it out. You could actually go ahead and then tell SQL is one of it, and then this could actually solve some of your problem easily. Or if it is a web application, you would say that, okay, I have a Selenium which can actually generate this entire stuff, and then it can work with multiple other framework for the automation, and I could give the same kind of stuff which you are doing with the automation anywhere on any other tool which are there. And if the problem gets solved and then client is convinced, then you should go ahead with it. But if you are doing it for yourself, some of these automation, then you could select a tool which is right for you, in the sense whether if it is actually reducing the task, if it's reducing the license cost of it, then you should actually go for the tool like SQL or any other tool which actually solve that problem.
Yes, sir. So, sir, actually we need to update ourselves, and we can go to the client that yes, we are adopting this technology and we will provide you, because of in RPA there is a lot of bugs after deploying the tool, and we need to take care of all the maintenance on and all the stuff as well. As so we are looking that we can provide a flawless solution to our client, and we are looking to reduce our maintenance after deploying the tool. So in that case, I think the Python will be the best choice.
Yeah. you could actually choose Python as a language, like frameworks which are based on the Python, and the Python as a language to actually do some of these things very quickly.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. I think Ayush.
Mr. Ayush.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, I have a question that is there any shortcomings or disadvantages associated with Python language? Because I believe that if we know the shortcomings of a programming language, we can do better programming.
Yeah, that's a good question, right? So as Python is actually evolving, the programming language is evolving. Some of these shortcomings are being fixed at a language level, or at a framework level, which are built on top of Python, right? For example, earlier, if you go and then read the documentation of the Python on the threading part of it, it actually takes the threading model of the entire stuff from the Java. Java has a very nice threading model, and then it actually takes that threading model from the Java, and then it has built on top of it. That's was one of the shortcoming which has been fixed. The second part of it is like when you talk about the Python as a language, while it is very easy to program and then do it, it becomes sometimes difficult to maintain it. And when I say why maintain it, when you pass the parameters, right, to a function, you would actually pass the types of it, right? Whether it is of a type string, whether it is type of type book or whatsoever. Python didn't had that quite this one. Now also what it has a decorator which actually makes sure that with, I think, Python 3.7, you could actually specify the type in the function, and then while it is getting pre-compiled or something, that time it gives you error. Otherwise, if it runs, then it does not. So those are certain part of it, because it is a dynamically interpreted language. There are certain challenges which are there. And while you have to write the test cases very well, test cases which with a good coverage, so that you don't miss out anything, and runtime you actually get the problems. Those are some shortcoming, and then people are trying to fix by doing multiple things, right? Like people will not keep quiet after that. They are doing fixing it as we go. Yeah.
So Ayush has done, right?
Yeah, Ayush is done.
Abhi, Mr. Abhi.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Sir, I want to ask you that there are so many courses like machine learning or data science with artificial intelligence also.
Mm-hmm.
So from all of this, how is data science is differ from all of these?
Okay, so when you talk about data science, actually it is a umbrella thing, right? Like AI, in AI, if you take an AI, you have machine learning. Within machine learning, you have a deep learning. So if you take the ecosystem of a data science covers a lot of things. It actually involves also visualizing, it involves plotting of the data for a specific thing. There are a lot of stuff which goes in the data sciences which might not or may not be an AI as such, right? Within that data science, you will have a sub branch kind of a thing, which is AI, and within the AI, you have a machine learning and then deep learning. So if you take a machine learning course, machine learning would involve certain part of a deep learning as such. If you take a AI, it would have AI would have a multiple other thing, which is your genetic algorithms and other things which are there as a part of it, right? Which are not basically a deep learning. So there is a fuzzy logic and other part of it. So yeah, data science is a much more broader umbrella in which you have lots of stuff, algorithms, techniques, and other things. AI is one of the techniques which we use, or tools which we use, a set of algorithms which we use, which are there within the as a part of it.
Yeah, I can add here, Alabash,
Yeah, sure, sir.
that this data science is like wherever the data is involved, right? And you are trying to extract information from the data. So it can start with very basic set of operation. For example, you manage databases, you manage data in different forms. So data science start from there. How do you make use of the data? How do you store the data, retrieve the data, and then the AI part is yeah, there is some overlap between data science and AI. And specifically when we talk about machine learning, right, which is like learning from data. So there is like data science and like this part of AI is quite overlapped, right? Because there are lots of techniques which are we apply in machine learning. That's like it's nothing but the data science techniques only. So that's like, but otherwise, data science is about wherever some data is there, and you are using this data in whatever way you would like to, whether it's a visualization or whether it is like extracting information without applying machine learning, or applying machine learning and then taking out more information. So I guess, I mean, there is some kind of overlap, and in fact, a lot of overlap, but you can understand that, yes, wherever the data is involved and you're manipulating, visualizing, extracting more information about, then that's the data science part. And that's lots of part is common with data science, machine learning. Yeah, and deep learning is a part of machine learning, and therefore that also goes with the data science, right? But data science is a bigger perspective, right, than machine learning. Okay. Mr. Abhinav will take one more question, and then we will request allow us to continue. Abhinav?
He is muted.
Okay.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So I want to ask that in this world where the new programming languages are developing every day, whether the students like us who are in undergrad should focus on learning different types of programming languages, or should master one type of language?
A good question.
Alavax, this is very nice question. I mean, people are young enough to understand that what is this programming word. There's so many languages, and sometimes like some language were popular, and sometime some other language got popular. So it's a kind of looks like a frightening situation. How many languages I need to learn, and I need to master them so that I can get a good career, a good job.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a very relevant question. And see, what happens is when you learn a language, you learn the first the paradigm of it, right? Whether it is a functional programming language, you will learn the functional paradigm. You learn an object-oriented programming paradigm, and then you learn a procedural paradigm, right? Like the likes of C and the other programming language which you have. So once you learn a programming language and then you learn it well, right? Like for example,
Yes.
I start with say Python, and then I say, okay, the Python as a language, what are the capabilities of it? How I use it for object oriented, whether there's an overloading of method which is there, how I declare a static method, how I declare a method which is not a static instance method. So all these things, if you learn, you would actually know as a language what it is. So and then what you would do is like you would say that, okay, what if I have to learn a new next language? Like this happens very quickly in this one. I was pretty good with Java now. Once the Java thing is like I want to move to data science, I started. What is the equivalent of a static method in Python? What's the equivalent? How do I actually create an inheritance? How do I apply this pattern in the other language which is there? And then once you start looking at it, you would figure it out. You learn this language. Language becomes just a tool, whereas the concept of object-oriented programming and other things, you will start applying it very quickly. So learn the concept well, apply to a language, learn it well with the one specific language, and then you could pick any other language more easily, right? There are certain programming language which are very specific to the web, right? JavaScript, TypeScript kind of a thing. But even if you take and then TypeScript also, if you have Java, then TypeScript actually is more or less similar. You have a concept of interface, you have a concept of a decorator, which is nothing but an annotation. We'll see that in Python also we have a decorator, which is nothing but an annotation which is there, nothing much more than that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. But sir, there is a confusion in my mind that Python is entering like every domain. The Django is for web development, and it can be used in place of JavaScript also. And in app development also, Python is there. So it's kind of becomes very confusing that we should go for the Python alternatives, or should go for the classical ones like JavaScript for the web development.
See, on the front end, what gets run, unless until you write it in a WebAssembly, what gets run is nothing but JavaScript and HTML, right? So even when the Django or the likes of the Django, whatever it gives is right, it will actually give you HTML and JavaScript which gets created, and then it spits it out that. So that so the on the web right now presently it is only the JavaScript which gets interpreted and then run in your browser, right? So that's the JavaScript and HTML. Now, how do you create this JavaScript and HTML? That actually differs. Do you create at a server side and you create it at a client side, or within that when you say about the JavaScript and TypeScript, whether you are writing it so for example, there was a toolkit called as a Google Web Toolkit. You write the entire program in Java and then you convert it into JavaScript. What runs is the JavaScript itself, and what gets used is the JavaScript on the web. Whereas backend, you could choose multiple languages. In future, that might actually completely change with.
Am I audible, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir. Audible, sir.
आप लोग को कुछ समझ में आ रहा है जो बताया जा रहा है? कुछ भी, थोड़ा सा भी?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
देखिए बच्चों, परेशान होने की बात नहीं है। कोर्सेज जो पाइथन के कोर्सेज थे वो कल तक ही थे, या सुनो, आज जो है सिंपल बताया जा रहा है कि जो आपने पाइथन सीखा या जो आप पाइथन लर्निंग प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज जो आप सीखने वाले हो फ्यूचर में अच्छे से सीखोगे, तो उसका क्या पर्सपेक्टिव है, उसका कहाँ कहाँ यूज है, किस किस इंडस्ट्री में उसका यूज है, इसके बारे में बताया जा रहा है। ठीक है बच्चों? यस सर?
Excuse me, sir.
यस प्लीज।
Yes, sir.
Sir, sir, I wanna say something, sir.
यस प्लीज टेल मी।
Sir, I didn't understand what he wanted to say properly, but I understood a little bit. Sir, I have a question, sir. Sir, Python language is advanced. If you will compare to another language like C++, Java, and other language.
Yes, okay, I got your question. So just listen to me, okay? देखिए बच्चों, होता क्या है ना यहाँ, बहुत सारे, आप म्यूट कर लीजिए, मैं समझा देता हूँ इसको। बहुत सारे प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज हैं, तो सारे, अब देखिए अक्सर बच्चों को कंफ्यूजन होता है कि हमें कौन सा प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज सीखना चाहिए, जो अभी इन्होंने बताया। अभी आपने वीडियो में देखा होगा, बच्चे ने क्वेश्चन किया था कि सर कौन सा लैंग्वेज सीखना चाहिए। यहाँ तो बहुत सारे प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज हैं, तो उसी से रिलेटेड आपका भी क्वेश्चन है। तो जनरली होता क्या, देखिए कोई भी प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज जो है कम या ज्यादा नहीं होता है, सबका डिमांड होता है। डिमांड मतलब क्या, एक सीजन होता है, ऐसे कह सकते हो आप। सब प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज अपना अपना एडवांटेज है, अपना अपना एरिया जहां पे उसको यूज करते हैं। तो इसलिए पहली बात तो कंपेयर हम कर नहीं सकते। हाँ, ये कह सकते हैं कि अभी किसका ज्यादा डिमांड है, ये बता सकते हैं। और जहां तक प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज की बात है, आपने सुना होगा बच्चों, ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम का नाम सुना होगा? सुनो, विंडोज ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम सुना होगा?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
मैक ओएस सुना होगा?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
तो बहुत सारे ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम ऐसे हैं जो कि सी प्रोग्रामिंग, C++ के हेल्प से बने होते हैं। तो उसका एक अपना एरिया है। यदि आपने जो ड्राइवर देखते हो, ड्राइवर्स है ना, ड्राइवर जो डिवाइस ड्राइवर्स होते हैं, मेडिकल इक्विपमेंट्स के जो ड्राइवर्स होते हैं, है ना, तो वो सारे उसकी जो एप्लीकेशंस होते हैं सी से बने होते हैं। क्यों सी से बने होते हैं? इसका रीजन है क्योंकि जितने भी प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज आप देखते हो उसमें अभी भी सी क्या है, सबसे फास्ट माना जाता है। क्लियर है बच्चों? सी क्या माना जाता है? फास्ट। तो जहां भी आपको रियल टाइम एप्लीकेशन चाहिए, मतलब जहां पे आपको फास्ट एक्सेस वाला सॉफ्टवेयर चाहिए जो ज्यादा काम करे। अब जिस सिंपल सी एग्जांपल देखो, आपने वेंटिलेटर का नाम सुना है जो हॉस्पिटल में यूज होते हैं?
Yes, sir.
उसमें बताओ क्या यूज होते हैं उसमें? वेंटिलेटर में क्या होता है, जो पेशेंट का मॉनिटर करता है हर चीज, बीपी, ब्लड प्रेशर, मतलब जो ब्लड बीपी हो गया, ब्लड प्रेशर उसी को कहते हैं। आपका टेम्परेचर, बहुत सारा चीज मेजर करता है। जो पेशेंट आपको कोमा में देखते होगे आप, जो बीमार होता है उसको क्यों किया जाता है, उसका ऑक्सीजन लेवल, बहुत सारी चीज मेजर करता है। तो उस केस में मान लीजिए आपको जो आप वेंटिलेटर यूज करो, उसमें जो सॉफ्टवेयर यूज है, तो आप क्या चाहते हो कि जैसे ही उस पेशेंट का बीपी थोड़ा सा भी लो है, अलार्म शुरू हो जाना चाहिए। आप ये चाहते हो ना, क्विक एक्शन होना चाहिए। नहीं तो क्या होगा, मान लीजिए अब अलार्म, उसका बीपी लो हो गया है, या फिर मान लीजिए ऑक्सीजन लेवल उसका खत्म हो गया, कम हो रहा है, और अलार्म आया 10 मिनट के बाद, तब तक में क्या होगा, पेशेंट खत्म हो जाएगा। तो वहां पे आपको क्या चाहिए, क्विक एक्सेस चाहिए। ऐसा एप्लीकेशन होना चाहिए सॉफ्टवेयर आपके वेंटिलेटर सिस्टम में जो कि तुरंत बताए, जैसे हो रियल टाइम, मतलब उसको क्या बोलते हैं, रियल टाइम। जैसे मैं अभी बोल रहा हूँ, आपको सुनाई दे रहा है ना बच्चों? मैं जो बोल रहा हूँ आपको सुनाई दे रहा है? दैट इज रियल
यस सर, यस सर।
टेक्स्ट होना चाहिए, यहाँ पे फास्ट है। तो ऐसे एप्लीकेशंस में हम क्या यूज करते हैं बताइए? कौन सा सॉफ्टवेयर यूज करेंगे जो कि जिस वैसे सॉफ्टवेयर जो कि जिसका प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज क्या होता है, फास्ट होता है, एक्सेस फास्ट होता है। तो वैसे सी हो गया आपके। अब जहां पे ऐसी कोई जरूरत नहीं है हमें कि एक मिनट सेकंड, 1 सेकंड, 2 सेकंड, 10 सेकंड डिले हो सकता है, वहां पे दूसरा सॉफ्टवेयर यूज करते हैं। तो डिपेंड करता है आपके सिचुएशन पे कि आप किस एरिया में उसको यूज करें। तो अब बात करते हैं लैंग्वेज की। तो बहुत सारे प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेजेस हैं, सबका अपना अपना रोल अलग अलग है, सबका अपना अपना एरिया है, फील्ड ऑफ। जैसे सी प्रोग्रामिंग का यूज आप वेब एप्लीकेशन बनाने में यूज नहीं कर सकते हो, सी प्लस प्लस का आप वेब एप्लीकेशन बनाने में यूज नहीं कर सकते, लेकिन जावा का आप वहां पे कर सकते हो, है ना। पाइथन का आप दोनों में कर सकते हो। तो कहने का मतलब हर एक प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज का अपना एक एरिया होता है। अब बात करते हैं डिमांड के हिसाब से, किसका डिमांड है। तो डिमांड के हिसाब से हम बात करते हैं। तो अभी पाइथन बच्चों पढ़ोगे तो उससे फायदा क्या होगा, सुनो। पहली बात, पाइथन जो है ऐसा प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज है, यदि आप कोई प्रोग्रामिंग नहीं भी पढ़े हो इससे पहले, तो आप चाहोगे तो समझ सकते हो, थोड़ा मेहनत करोगे तो समझ में आ जाएगा। बहुत ही कंपेयर टू सी, सी प्लस प्लस, जावा, बहुत ही ये आसान लैंग्वेज है। कौन? पाइथन। पहला पॉइंट। दूसरा, अभी जो डिमांड टेक्नोलॉजीज हैं, जैसे आपने डेटा साइंस का नाम सुना, अभी बताया गया था, आपने सुना होगा ऑटोमेशन का नाम सुना होगा, आपने सुना होगा डीप लर्निंग का नाम सुना होगा, आपने मशीन लर्निंग का नाम सुना, आपने एआई का नाम सुना होगा, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस सुना है ना। तो ये सब जो फील्ड हैं, ये सब इससे रिलेटेड जो इंडस्ट्री है, वहां पे जो लैंग्वेज चाहिए होती है वो क्या चाहिए होती है? पाइथन चाहिए होती है। तो ये बताओ, अभी ये सारे टेक्नोलॉजी के डिमांड है, अब उस डिमांड में तभी आप जा पाओगे जब आपको क्या आना चाहिए? पाइथन आना चाहिए। तो जो लेटेस्ट डिमांड जो है उसके लिए आपका पाइथन जो है बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है जानना। क्लियर है बच्चों? वैसे ही आप बोलोगे सर जावा क्या, जावा कोई यूज नहीं है? जावा का भी अपना एक यूज है, लेकिन जावा बहुत पहले आया है, उसका अपना एक एरिया है, उस एरिया में जाएंगे तो जावा का यूज होगा। सी प्लस प्लस की बात है तो जब हम ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम, ड्राइवर या कोई एप्लीकेशन की बात करते हैं, मेडिकल इक्विपमेंट्स की बात करते हैं, तो वहां पे हम जावा भी यूज कर सकते हैं, सी प्लस भी यूज कर सकते हैं, पाइथन भी यूज कर सकते हैं। लेकिन उसमें सबसे ज्यादा कौन वहां पे यूज होता है? सी प्लस प्लस ज्यादा यूज होता है। तो सबका अपना अपना एरिया है बच्चों, आप किसी को अच्छा या खराब नहीं कर सकते हो। जैसे आपने कोविड का नाम सुना होगा, कोविड सुना है, कोरोना वायरस। अब कोरोना में आपने देखा होगा कि मेडिकल इक्विपमेंट्स की डिमांड बढ़ गई थी, या सुना था बच्चों की नहीं?
यस सर।
मेडिकल्स में
यस सर, या।
अब डिमांड बढ़ गई तो अब उसको डिमांड को पूर्ति किया जाएगा ना। तो डिमांड जो यानी मेडिकल इक्विपमेंट्स बनेंगे तो वहां पे कोई ना कोई सॉफ्टवेयर उसके चाहिए हैंडल करने के लिए। अब सॉफ्टवेयर बनेगा तो प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज यूज होगा वहां पे। तो उस केस में आपने सुना होगा, आप देखोगे रिपोर्ट देखोगे तो वहां पे सी प्लस प्लस, जावा, पाइथन के में कंपटीशन लगा रहता था। कभी ये टॉप पे जाता था, कभी ये टॉप पे, मतलब जिसका जहां यूज हुआ उसके हिसाब से टॉप पे आता था। तो उस हिसाब से उसका आगे पीछे चलते रहता। लेकिन अभी भी यदि आप पूछो हमसे सर विच वन ये टॉप 10, टॉप 5 ऐसा पूछोगे, तो यदि मैं टॉप 5 की बात करूं तो ये सी प्लस प्लस को तो हटा दो, लेकिन सी, पाइथन, जावा, ये सब चीजें आपको टॉप 5 में हमेशा रहते हैं। ठीक है बच्चों? तो कोई भी खराब नहीं है, लेकिन
एक्चुअली सर,
हाँ प्लीज बताइए।
sir, as sir mentioned that PHP, sir, so I just wanna know that what is the difference between PHP and Python?
देखिए PHP जो है आपका, जैसे वेब एप्लीकेशन जानते हो, जैसे फेसबुक का नाम सुना होगा आपने।
या सर, या
पहले जो फेसबुक बना हुआ था वो PHP से बना हुआ था, है ना। तो मतलब वेब एप्लीकेशन बनाने में हम PHP यूज करते हैं। वेब एप्लीकेशन मतलब जो इंटरनेट से काम करता है, ठीक है। पाइथन का भी यूज हम कर सकते हैं। तो वेब एप्लीकेशन में भी दो चीजें होती है बच्चों, एक होता है आपका बैकएंड, एक होता है फ्रंट एंड। नाम सुना होगा आपने। फ्रंट एंड मतलब जो आप वेबसाइट सब देखते हो, डिजाइनिंग देखते हो, फ्रंट एंड हो गया। इंटरनली जो कनेक्शंस होता है उसको कहते हैं बैकएंड बोलते हैं। तो वहां पे हम PHP यूज करते हैं, .NET यूज करते हैं, पाइथन भी यूज कर सकते हैं, जावा भी यूज करते हैं। तो सबका अपना अपना यूज है। लेकिन बाकी सारे चीज को छोड़ दे तो अभी के डिमांड के हिसाब से हम बात करते हैं, ये सब चीज पुराना चीज हो गया ना, वेबसाइट डिजाइन ये सब क्या हो गया, पुरानी चीजें हो गई, है ना। तो लेकिन अभी के डिमांड के हिसाब से बात करें, टेक्नोलॉजी के हिसाब से बात करें, तो बच्चों ये जो है आपका क्या, PHP कहते हैं, पाइथन आपका डिमांड चाहता है, क्योंकि नया टेक्नोलॉजी क्या है आपका, मशीन लर्निंग है, AI है, डेटा साइंस है, डीप लर्निंग है। तो इसके लिए इस फील्ड में आपको जाना है तो आपको पाइथन जानना पड़ेगा। बाकी आप जावा से भी जा सकते हो, आप सी प्लस के भी फील्ड में जा, लेकिन वहां पे थोड़ा सा स्कोप कम होता है। ठीक है, ठीक है बच्चों।
Hello, sir. I have a question, sir.
Sir,
Yes, please. एक one by one mute कर लीजिए.
so yes, sir. Let me complete my question, sir.
Okay, okay.
Sir, my next question is, one student asked him to he said, if we implement RPI instead of Python, then what happens?
मतलब आप कोई implement Python से करते हो, ठीक है?
Yes, RPI, sir.
RBI?
Instead of Python. RPI, sir. Instead of Python.
Yes.
If we implement RPI instead of Python, what will happen?
Actually, I am not getting your question, Anna. So please repeat again.
Sir, one student asked him, if we implement RPI, sir, my accent is good or relevant? RPI, sir. RPI.
What is RPI?
Yes, sir. Instead of
what is
sir,
RPI?
one student said, yes, sir. I just wanna ask you, RPI. What is RPI?
RPI.
One student said, yes, sir.
Oh, actually, I am not getting what is RPI. So please ask that student.
So my
ठीक है, आपको बेटर होगा क्वेश्चन पूछा है, लेट मी कंप्लीट, उससे आप पूछेंगे व्हाट डू, देखिए कभी कभी क्या करे, कुछ फुल फॉर्म नहीं भी होता तो जबरदस्ती बनाते हैं आरपीआई, ऐसा होता है ना, तो आप मुझसे पूछेंगे कि आरपीआई का मतलब क्या होता है, आप पूछ के बताओ, फिर मैं उसके बेस पे बताऊंगा. कभी कभी कुछ फुल फॉर्म जो है फेमस नहीं होते तो लोगों को पता नहीं होता है, ठीक है, तो आप उनसे पूछना जिन्होंने पूछा कि आरपीआई का मतलब क्या बताना चाह रहे हो, ठीक है, कोई दिक्कत?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You explain something about data science.
यस, अब डेटा साइंस में बता देता हूँ. देखो डेटा साइंस क्या है, आजकल आपने डेटा साइंस का सिंपल एग्जांपल देखो. डेटा साइंस मतलब यहाँ पे जो हम काम करते हैं डेटा पे काम करते हैं, डेटा पे. आपको पता है जैसे पेट्रोल डीजल है वैसे हमारे लिए आजकल डेटा भी इंपॉर्टेंट है या नहीं, बताइए. ये सुनो, मान लीजिए आपने सुना होगा ना, कंपनीज, बहुत बड़ी बड़ी कंपनियां हैं, एमएनसी कंपनीज हैं, बहुत बड़ी कंपनीज हैं, वो कैसे डिसाइड करते हैं कि हमें कौन सा प्रोडक्ट फ्यूचर में लॉन्च करना चाहिए, वो कैसे डिसाइड करते हैं कि हमें कौन सा प्रोडक्ट ज्यादा बनाना है जिसका डिमांड फ्यूचर में होने वाला है. तो फ्यूचर में प्रिडिक्शन होता है ना, प्रिडिक्शन, म्यूट कर लीजिए. प्रिडिक्शन मतलब कि म्यूट योरसेल्फ, म्यूट योरसेल्फ. ठीक है बच्चों, तो कहने का मतलब ये हुआ कि डेटा साइंस जो आपने प्रिडिक्शन होते हैं ना कि मतलब फ्यूचर में किसका डिमांड है. जैसे कोई कंपनी है, वो डाटा साइंटिस्ट को हायर करती है. क्या करती है? डेटा साइंटिस्ट को हायर करती है. क्यों करती है पता है? बस इसलिए ताकि वो डेटा साइंटिस्ट उसमें एक्सपर्ट होता है, डेटा साइंस में एक्सपर्ट होता है, वो उसके पास बहुत सारे नॉलेज होते हैं. उस नॉलेज के बेस पे और प्रीवियस रिकॉर्ड जो डेटा उस कंपनी का, उसको यूज करके वो बता सकता है, वो प्रिडिक्ट कर सकता है कि आगे फ्यूचर में किस चीज की डिमांड होने वाली है, कौन सा प्रोडक्ट का डिमांड होने वाला है ना. आपने कभी देखा होगा, आपने कभी ऐसा देखा है क्या, फेसबुक पे देखा है क्या आपने, या फेसबुक पे नहीं या व्हाट्सएप पे, जब आप कुछ सर्च करते हो कोई भी टॉपिक के बारे में, तो देखना नेक्स्ट टाइम आपको उससे से रिलेटेड टॉपिक आपके स्क्रीन पे आने लगता है. ऐसा देखे हो कभी?
Yes, sir.
या फिर आप देखना जब आप जैसे आप कुछ फ्लिपकार्ट पे, अमेजोन पे कुछ आपने परचेज किया, या परचेज नहीं भी किया, आपने बस कुछ सर्च किया, देखना जब खोलोगे ना उससे रिलेटेड आपको नोटिफिकेशन आने शुरू हो जाएंगे स्क्रीन पे. यस नो, ऑफर्स आने शुरू हो जाएंगे. ये चीजें कैसे होती है? ये सारी चीजें जो हैं आपके रिकॉर्ड पे, आपके डेटा पे, कंपनी आपके डेटा के हिसाब से आपको रेफर करती है. ये सारा चीजें जो इंटरनली होता है ना, मतलब प्रिडिक्शन, सिंपल से फ्यूचर के बारे में प्रिडिक्शन. हमारे पास डेटा है 10 साल का प्रीवियस डेटा, उसके बेस पे हम प्रिडिक्ट कर रहे हैं कि आगे क्या होने वाला है. ठीक है, तो ये चीजें, इसके लिए आप सिंपल हमने बोल दिया कि प्रिडिक्ट कर देता, लेकिन प्रिडिक्ट ऐसे नहीं करो. उसके लिए इंटरनली बहुत सारे एल्गोरिथम्स काम करते हैं, उसका बहुत सारा पढ़ाई होता है. जैसे हम लोग पढ़ाई करते हैं बीसीए का, वैसे उसका एक अलग पढ़ाई होता है, उसका एक अपना कोर्स होता है. तब जाके जो उसमें एक्सपर्ट होते हैं वो प्रिडिक्ट कर पाते हैं. और प्रिडिक्ट ऐसा भी नहीं, वो करेक्ट प्रिडिक्ट करते हैं 99% तक, 98%, 90 प्लस जो है परसेंटेज का क्या हो रहा है, प्रिडिक्शन सही होता है. लेकिन ऐसे हम लोग सिंपल नहीं बोल सकते, उसके लिए प्रॉपर कोर्स होता है, उसके लिए प्रॉपर टेक्निक होता है, उसके लिए प्रॉपर प्रोसीजर होता है जिसको वो फॉलो करते हैं। उनके पास डेटा होना चाहिए 10 साल का रिकॉर्ड, जिसके बेस पे वो करते हैं। अच्छा, कभी आपने देखा है, सिंपल सा एग्जाम्पल मैं लेता हूँ, आप जब 10th या 12th में थे तो गैस पेपर आप लोग खरीदते थे ना, उसमें लिखा होता मॉडल पेपर, याद है? तो कैसे वो बताते हैं उस मॉडल पेपर, जो कैसे वो जो कंपनी, जो अलग अलग कंपनियां निकालती है गैस पेपर, वो कैसे पता समझ जाती है कि ये क्वेश्चन आने वाला है, वो कैसे गेस करती है?
10 साल का क्वेश्चन एनालाइज
प्रीवियस
करती है।
रिकॉर्ड को देख के उस पर एनालाइज करती है, उस टीम होती है, रिसर्च टीम होती है, वो एनालाइज करके बताती है कि यहाँ पे ये चीज हो सकता है अगले बार ये पूछा जाए, इस तरह के क्वेश्चन आए। रिकॉर्ड को देख के कैसे पता चलता है कि आपको कि ये जो है अच्छे कंपटीशन में कि इतना नंबर का ये टॉपिक से पूछा गया, इतना नंबर से ये टॉपिक से पूछा गया? तो आप प्रेडिक्ट कर, आपने जनरल कंपटीशन के बच्चों को देखा होगा, जो वहां पर टीचर जो पढ़ाते हैं वो बता देंगे इतना नंबर का है हर बार, तो वो एक फॉर्मूला बना देते हैं कि हर साल इतना इतना नंबर का पूछता है, जबकि ऐसा कहीं लिखा हुआ नहीं होता है। बट वो एनालाइज करते किसके बेस पे? ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ प्रीवियस रिकॉर्ड। तो वैसे ही जो डेटा हमारे पास प्रीवियस डेटा है, उसके बेस पे फ्यूचर में क्या होने वाला है, इस चीज को हमें भी करना होता है। ये हम तो नहीं करते, कंपनी, बड़ी बड़ी कंपनियां जिसके पास ट्रांजेक्शन, हायर ट्रांजेक्शन होते हैं, बड़ी बड़ी कंपनियां हैं, वो भी प्रिडिक्ट करती है। वो देखती है कि हमारे यूजर का डिमांड क्या है। जैसे आप कुछ मान लीजिए, आपने कोई गाड़ी के लिए कुछ नेट पे सर्च किया, जैसे आपने होंडा के गाड़ी के लिए कुछ सर्च किया 4 व्हीलर के लिए, और उसमें आपने फीचर्स देखा, फीचर्स चेक किया। अब इसकी इंफॉर्मेशन जो है, होंडा का वेबसाइट आपने खोला, उस पर सर्च किया, अब यूजर वहां का जो वेबसाइट है, वेबसाइट पे वो सारा चीजें जो आप कर रहे हो, क्या सर्च करो, सारा उसको पता है। अब उसके बेस पे देखता है, मान लीजिए आपने किया, वैसे मान लीजिए पर डे हजारों लोग करते हैं, 10,000 लोग करते हैं, तो उसके बेस पे वो डेटा कलेक्ट करता है कि देखता है कि आखिर बच्चे लोग सर्च क्या करें, किस चीज के बारे में, किस फीचर्स के बारे में सर्च करें, किस गाड़ी के बारे में सर्च करें। उससे वो एनालाइज करता है, अच्छा ये गाड़ी का डिमांड है, लोग परचेज करना चाहते हैं, ठीक है। तो उसके बेस पे वो अपना क्या करता है, फ्यूचर में प्लान करता है कि हमें इस तरह गाड़ी निकालना है ना। तो ये चीजें हम लोग सोचते हैं इतना चीज क्या होगा, लेकिन वो कंपनियां इसके बहुत चीजें सोचती है वो हमसे, तो उसके लिए वो डेटा साइंटिस्ट यूज करती है ना। और वो बताता है कि ये ऐसा करोगे तो फ्यूचर में ऐसा प्लान होगा, ऐसा। तो वही चीजें डेटा साइंस वहां पे काम करती है, इसी का डिमांड है। लेकिन ये चीजें एक ऐसा नहीं कि हमने बोल दिया हो गया, उसके लिए प्रॉपर स्टडी होता है, उसका एक प्रोसीजर होता है, उसका एक पढ़ाई होता है, जो कंप्लीट करता है वही डेटा साइंटिस्ट बनता है। ठीक है बच्चों, तो उसके लिए फिर आप डेटा साइंस पढ़ाई में जाओगे, उसमें जाओगे तो क्या करना पड़ेगा, फिर आपको पाइथन नॉलेज चाहिए ना बेसिक। जैसे आपको एबीसीडी पता होना चाहिए, तभी आप इंग्लिश में लिख सकते हो, सेंटेंस लिख सकते हो, है ना, समझ सकते हो। वैसे ही कर सकते हो तरह का कि वो उसका बेसिक नॉलेज हो आपका पाइथन। ठीक है बच्चों, और कोई डाउट?
No, sir. My question is yours.
Okay, next one. So if
I am sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, I have a question, sir. Sir said that it is Python is used to easy to learn and easy to use. How it is, but sir said that it is difficult to maintain. How it is difficult to maintain, sir?
So please explain again. Repeat your question.
Sir, Python is difficult to maintain. How it is difficult to maintain, sir?
Python prefer to maintain.
Yes, sir.
I'm not getting your question actually. What do you want to say? What do you want to say actually? What do you want to know from me? Please tell me about Python. Means prefer to learn, you can say. Why Python prefer to learn? Yes or no?
No, sir. Python is difficult to maintain, sir, but easy to use and easy to learn, sir. How it is possible, sir?
नहीं, सिंपल सी बात है, मतलब कैसे प्रिफर्ड मतलब मेंटेन किया जा सकता पाइथन लैंग्वेज, यही ना?
Yes, sir.
समझ गया। देखिए क्वेश्चन क्या करना, वो क्वेश्चन ऐसा नहीं था, क्वेश्चन था कुछ ऐसा कि बहुत सारे लैंग्वेजेस हैं, बहुत सारे प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज, उसमें से पाइथन ही करे या पाइथन के अलावा बहुत सारे लैंग्वेज करे, कैसे करे, यही ना बोलना चाह रहे हो एक्चुअली मैं आपको। यस सुनो कि बहुत सारे लैंग्वेज है, उसमें से पाइथन को हम मेंटेन कैसे करें। बहुत सारे लैंग्वेज, मान लीजिए आप बहुत सारे लैंग्वेज जानते हो, तो आप कैसे किसी पार्टिकुलर लैंग्वेज में कमांड कर सकते हो? कंफ्यूजन तो होगा ही ना। तो सिंपल सी बात है बच्चों, आपको पहली बात तो आपको इंटरेस्ट देखना पड़ेगा कि हमारा इंटरेस्ट किस एरिया में है। आप बताइए आपका इंटरेस्ट किस में है बच्चों? जो जिसने क्वेश्चन पूछा था, आप किस फील्ड में जाना चाहते हो?
इंडस्ट्रियल सर।
सॉरी?
इंडस्ट्रियल।
इंडस्ट्री में कोई सेक्टर होता है ना, इंडस्ट्री में कहाँ पे किसी सेक्टर, जैसे मान लीजिए एक होता है सर्विस बेस्ड, एक होता है प्रोडक्ट बेस्ड। प्रोडक्ट में भी बहुत सारी चीजें होती है, वेब डेवलपमेंट में जाना है या सॉफ्टवेयर इंडस्ट्री में जाना है या टेस्टिंग में जाना है, बहुत सारी चीजें होती है उसमें। तो फिर भी आपको किस पे जाना है, किस लैंग्वेज पे, जैसे आपको पाइथन पे काम करना है या जावा पे काम किस पे करना है, कुछ तो सोचा होगा आपने।
मशीन लर्निंग पे वर्क करना चाहते हैं।
हाँ, अब ये पॉइंट हुई। तब मशीन लर्निंग आप सीखना फील्ड में जाना चाहते हो, मतलब मशीन लर्निंग एआई डेटा इसी का पार्ट होता है सारा। इसका मतलब क्या है, आप अब बताइए, क्या आप मशीन लर्निंग में जावा से जा सकते हो? नहीं जा सकते हो। क्या सी पढ़ के जा सकते हो? नहीं जा सकते हो। क्या सी प्लस पढ़ के जा सकते हो? नहीं जा सकते हो। तो उस केस में क्या आपका मैंडेटरी चीजें हैं, बताओ, कि आपको पाइथन आना चाहिए। तो आप क्या करोगे बताओ, कौन सा लैंग्वेज सीखोगे? पाइथन सीखोगे। अब पाइथन केवल एक होता है कि सिंपल सीख लिया हमने, लेकिन पाइथन वहां पे मशीन लर्निंग में तो बहुत सारी चीजें आपको यूज होगी। सिंपल चीजें तो आपने सीखा तो वही यूज नहीं होगी, तो उसके लिए आपको फिर मेहनत करना पड़ेगा। आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा? मेहनत करना पड़ेगा, वो पाइथन अच्छे से सीखना पड़ेगा, है ना। अच्छे से मतलब कि पाइथन पे प्रैक्टिस करके जाना पड़ेगा आपको। इंडस्ट्री में भी ऐसी एंट्री नहीं मिलती है, उसके लिए आपको मेहनत करना पड़ेगा। आपको पाइथन का प्रॉपर नॉलेज होना चाहिए, तभी तो आपको कंपनी हायर करेगी या नहीं करेगी, बताओ। जैसे मान लीजिए एक मैथमेटिक्स मैं जानता हूँ, जो घटाव मैं जानता हूँ, और एक मैं अच्छे से खूब मैथमेटिक्स जानता हूँ, तो किसको वो हायर करेगी, बताओ? जो अच्छे से जानता है। तो वैसे ही अच्छे से जाना कैसे जानोगे? जब आप मेहनत किए रहोगे उसके पीछे, जब पाइथन पे प्रैक्टिस किए रहोगे, जब आप बहुत सारे मेहनत किए रहोगे, बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट पे काम किए रहोगे, तभी तो होगा ना। या सुनो बच्चों, तो आपके हिसाब से मैं बात करूं तो मेंटेन करने के लिए सिंपल सी चीजें हैं। यदि आप अभी किस में है बच्चों? आप ब्रिज कोर्स में है अभी आप?
यस सर।
हाँ, ब्रिज में अभी आपने फर्स्ट प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज यही पाइथन पढ़ा होगा अभी तक। तो बेटर ऑप्शन है कि आप पाइथन थोड़ा बहुत तो सीखा होगा आपने। फर्स्ट टाइम थोड़ा सा डिफिकल्ट होता है आप लोगों के लिए, लेकिन कुछ कुछ सीखा होगा कि नहीं पाइथन में? या सुनो,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
एक आइडिया लगा होगा आपको कि पाइथन का यूज क्या है, पाइथन क्या, इस तरह का आइडिया आ गया। अब नेक्स्ट टाइम बच्चों क्या करोगे आप लोग, या अभी से आप लोगों को जरूरत पड़े तो अलग से आप पाइथन क्या कर सकते हो। कॉलेज में आपको एडन कोर्सेज भी करवाई जाती है पाइथन के, तो जब भी एडन कोर्स है तो उसको ज्वाइन कर लेना, ठीक है। तो बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, ऑप्शंस हैं, आपको सेमेस्टर में पढ़ाई जाती है एज ए सब्जेक्ट, उसमें भी पाइथन है। तो जब वो सब चीजें आएगी तो आप उसमें बढ़ चढ़ के अच्छे से काम करना, सीखना और ज्यादा सीखने की कोशिश करना। तो ये आपका क्या होगा, ज्यादा काम आएगा, ठीक है। तो बेटर होगा कि आप अभी से थोड़ा बहुत आइडिया लग गया होगा पाइथन के बारे में क्या है, तो मेहनत करना शुरू कर दीजिए, ठीक है। देखो, कुछ चीजें जो है एक दिन में पॉसिबल नहीं है। पॉसिबल है क्या? इसके लिए कोई भी लैंग्वेज सीखने के लिए आपको 6 मंथ साल भर आपको देना पड़ता है अच्छे से सीखने के लिए, तब जाके आप उसमें एक्सपर्ट बनते हो। कोई पता है पाइथन का भी कोई एंड नहीं है, उसमें भी वो भी भाषा है, लेकिन हाँ जितना
I prep for Inter Olympics.
यस प्लीज, सॉरी। तो बच्चों एक आइडिया लगे हो तो हम लोग कंटिन्यू करते हैं, ठीक है। बाकी चीजें जो है हम लोग बाद में भी देख लेंगे, डिस्कस कर लेंगे। फिलहाल इस पे हम लोग बात करते हैं, जो वो सर बता रहे हैं उनको देख लेते हैं, ठीक है। क्लियर है?
WebAssembly as a
Yes, sir.
you could write the front end code, the high performance code also in a language quickly, and then withdrawn or deferred appropriately, right? So all your whatsoever you find in most of the language, right, that is nothing but a pep, and then the pep has a number. So for example, pep 08, pep 01, pep 2, pep 383. These are nothing but the enhancement proposals which are either active or are replaced, and rejected would be there. So those are the things which goes for a pep part of it. So if you go and then people say that this is pep 08, which means that there is a Python enhancement proposal 08 which has been there. Now, while we talked about it, we spoke about what are the different things, like why it is fast, why it is exactly for use for big data. The core part of it is what we are going to tell, right? So there is something called the Python buffer protocol. So and this is the reason we use Python for data manipulation, right? So there is a PEP which is 3118, which is lets Python objects. At the end of the day, Python is exposing the object as a raw byte array, which means that the entire object as usually gets serialized and then stored as a byte array, and then on this byte array the manipulation happens, right? So the core part of it, why people, if people, someone asks you why Python is used for the data manipulation, apart from what exactly I gave the purpose, there are libraries, there are frameworks, it is easy to debug, easy to this one. The core part of it is Python buffer protocol, the technical part of it, which I would say, which you know, allows you to expose the Python objects as raw bytes, and using these raw bytes, libraries can actually store it, manipulate these large array without making a copy of it. So you would have a memory efficiencies and all those stuff which will come into place. While we talk about it, there is another thing which you need to know. In certain places, you would write a C wrapper, or there would be a specific C code which gets executed and then run, and that's another thing which happens. So you will have Python code, but internally to expose to the for as an API, but internally you have a C code which actually runs and then does the entire stuff. So Python buffer protocol, which is a PEP 3118, is core part of exposing this. Right now, while we said about it, there are also, as people say, right, there were challenges with Python, and then these challenges got solved over the period of time, and that's what I'm going to talk about it. First of all, there was a challenge in installation of a package, right? How do you install the package? Because you have a NumPy, you have a SciPy, and all those stuff, and these are dependency with each other. How do we install all these things? So you have now requirement.txt, where you actually put all the package which you want to install, and then you say pip install, and then based on the requirement.txt, it will install all the packages which are there, right? This is something very similar to apt get, and then you install, and then you say that what exactly you want to install. Earlier, there was a 2.x, which is now completely deprecated, which means that there will be no major enhancement to Python 2.7 branch. There would be nothing which is there, only bug fixes would be happening. But entire things which we now move to the 3.x, we are going to use now 3.x, which means that 3.5, 3.6, 3.7, 3.8, 3.9, 3.10, and forward. What happens when we actually talk about the Python? Python has a different version of the Python, right? Like Java has a Java 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, 13 till 16. Now 17 is going to come. Which is the thing, which is the compatible packages for it? Because some of these have become the language features itself. How do actually the Python 3.5 could exist with 3.6 in the same machine? That actually becomes a problem. So how do you install? And uh, if you start upgrading your package, the other thing which are running on Python on your machine, or you are testing it, that should not actually get a problem, which is a havoc which you create. And how do you package your Python application so that you distribute it appropriately, right? So these are the certain problems which are there, and there are solution to it which are there. Like for example, installation of the package, we said pip. Pip is the package manager, or you have tools which by which you could install pip. You install, and then you would say everything, you would put it in a requirement.txt, and then you install it, these things. Now, how to install packages, different packages solves those things. Now, the other thing is, how do you package your Python application? You package is an egg or a wheel file format based on, and then these egg or wheel files are something which get installed. So when you package your Python program, first you could actually give it as a .py file, and then the person can run it as a Python. And this one, that is one of the way, actually, crude way of doing things, and it works. That's not the problem. But if you want to package it appropriately, like you want to give it as an exe kind of a thing, which is there, right? So you have things which are called as a wheel and the egg format, which is one of the defined format, and there is a pep which exists, and then you package it. And how do you upgrade? So we'll see that with Python, you could actually create the environments, right? And within the environments, you could actually just run those, create that environment, and then upgrade that environment itself rather than anything else. So those who are in that environment will have those packages, those which are not. So essentially, you are doing a sandboxing, and then we'll see that. And one of the major part of it for anything to succeed is the API documentation, which is there. If your API is not documented, if your code is not documented, if you don't have enough way how to use your code, things don't get used. If you go ahead and then use any of the standard libraries, you will actually see there is a huge amount of API documentation which is provided from where this algorithm is implemented, what is the reason it is implemented in that, and all those stuff, right? For example, if I take a sorting algorithm like timsort, which is implemented in Python. Timsort is an algorithm which is a merge sort algorithm with some improvement in it. So the Python actually gives you this information saying that which is the paper or which is the book from where this timsort algorithm is there as a documentation.
Yes, Shivam.
Sir, API documentation means, sir?
एपीआई डॉक्यूमेंटेशन मतलब जैसे मान लीजिए आप सॉफ्टवेयर बनाते हैं, कोई भी एप्लीकेशन बनाते हैं, ठीक है, तो उस एप्लीकेशन के बारे में आप डिटेल बताएंगे ना कि उस डॉक्यूमेंट में, उस मतलब एप्लीकेशन में क्या क्या फीचर्स है, क्या क्या कैसे काम करेगा, है ना, तो उसको डॉक्यूमेंटेशन कहते हैं। कोई भी सॉफ्टवेयर जब बनाते हो आप, उससे कुछ बहुत सारे फेजेस होते हैं, तो उसमें से एक क्या होता है आपका डॉक्यूमेंटेशन फेज, जो आप एप्लीकेशन बना रहे हो, है ना, एप्लीकेशन बना रहे हो, उसमें जो मान लीजिए एप्लीकेशन कैसे काम करेगा, उस एप्लीकेशन के अंदर है क्या, आपने किस तरह से उसको ऑपरेट करना है, ये सारी चीजें आप डालोगे या नहीं डालोगे, बताइए। तो उसके लिए आप क्या करते हो, एपीआई डॉक्यूमेंट बनाते हो। कोई दिक्कत उसके लिए, जैसे मान लीजिए कोई सॉफ्टवेयर बनाया, कोई भी आप देख लो, कोई भी सॉफ्टवेयर होता है उसका डॉक्यूमेंटेशन पेज होता है ना, डॉक्यूमेंटेशन पेज जिसमें बताया जाता है कि सॉफ्टवेयर कैसे काम करेगा, है ना। आप एग्जांपल के लिए बताता हूँ, आईआरसीटी का साइट है, उस आईआरसीटी का साइट पे आप जाना, वहां पे एक गाइड, यूजर गाइड करके दिया जाता है, उसको जब खोलोगे ना तो आपको बताया कैसे उसको ऑपरेट करना है, कैसे उसको ऑपरेट करना है, वो सारा चीज बताता है। तो उसी तरह का डॉक्यूमेंटेशन पेज हम जब पाइथन में भी बनाते हैं कोई एप्लीकेशन, तो उसके लिए बनाते हैं, ठीक है। उसी को बोलते हैं एप्लीकेशन प्रोग्रामिंग इंटरफेस। क्या बोलते हैं? एप्लीकेशन प्रोग्रामिंग इंटरफेस, ठीक है बच्चों।
Okay.
And then how do you use it and how do you defer it and how do you use this method to use? So that is very important to write the API documentation, and when you write the API documentation, it should be available for the people to go through it and then understand it. And for that we use PyDoc, PDoc, Sphinx as the thing. Sphinx is largely used, followed by the PyDoc. Sphinx is one of the best documentation generator for the Python which is available right now. Okay, so we spoke about the pip to a brief extent. Pip is a command line tool basically to install the Python packages. You say pip install and then you can install the package name which is there from the repository, and then pip by default it will see what is the repository. What it does is actually it goes and finds it in pypy.org, and this is very similar to npm. So you could actually create your package and then publish in pypy, and then you could actually download it. When you say pip install, you are actually going and then downloading it from there and then installing it, which is very similar to npm if you have used node.js or thing, or it's similar to mvn like a maven or Gradle, where actually it goes to the Maven repository which is mentioned and then downloads it. PyPy is one of the official repository from where you could download the pip packages which are there. And now, as I said, like there could be packages which is for 3.5 or 2.x, earlier for 2.x or 3.x. When I say 3.x, within that it could be for 3.5, 3.6, 3.7. How do you take care of it? So you create an environment and then you replicate this environment that is required. So what we call it is that there is a virtual environment which we create. What it does, it creates a separate spaces for it with dependencies of the library. So for example, you want to use TensorFlow 1.14 and then you want to use TensorFlow 2.x for another development, right? So you have 1.14 thing, and then you have installed all the dependencies for 1.14. Now when you say that updated, it should not actually, the update should not happen that entire TensorFlow 2.0 is getting installed and then the previous project which you wrote in 1.14 will not work, because you have actually updated, you have deleted other pip packages which has been installed. So what it does, so you usually go ahead and then you create a virtual environment using a different virtual environment tool which are there, right? Conda is one of the things, virtual environment is one of the things. So the way you do is you go inside a project and then you create a folder called virtual environment by using the tool, and then in that you have all the details of your pip packages. It are stored appropriately. Let's actually see it. So for example, if I create a virtual environment, and then once I create a virtual environment, I activate a virtual environment, which means that I say that this environment is active now. I'm going to run this environment, and then I could actually just say pip install the package name, which is a numpy TensorFlow TensorFlow is equal to 2.5. So the 2.5 of TensorFlow gets installed. And so here is the look and feel of it, right? Like if I say the binary part of it, in bin folder, you would find pip, you would find all the wheel files, which are nothing but the installable files which are there. You would find that there is a Python which is being referred, which was Python 3.7, pip 3.7 is there, and Python 3 is now, I could execute it with Python 3.7, I could execute it from Python. And then there are specific Python 3.7 packages which would be there and which are installed. Now, if I install everything over here, right? Like I installed TensorFlow 2.4, suppose NumPy for that and everything. I want to replicate this environment other places other than reinstalling it and all those stuff. I could actually do that by saying pip freeze requirement.txt. Requirement.txt will actually have all the files which I have installed. And then if I have to install it somewhere else in another my friend's laptop, right? I'll say pip install -r requirement.txt. This is the file which we spoke about. It will have all the packages. It is something similar to your pom.xml in Java, or in npm it is a package.json kind of a thing, which will have all the package name and the version of that package name which is available with the node, and then how to run it, and then it gets installed over there. So this is usually the way when we actually start a workspace or start a development process. What we do is we go ahead, we create a virtual environment for my thing, and because I'm working on multiple projects, so I would create a virtual environment. I'll create in that environment, I will actually install all the libraries which I need with specific, and when I create an environment, I'll say whether it is for 3.7, 3.5 or 3.6, whatsoever is the version of the Python which I'm using, and then I go ahead and then install all the packages which I have. Then I'll actually freeze the thing if I want to transfer this entire environment as is to my friend. So I'll get the requirement.txt in my friend machine. He need to actually just say pip install requirement.txt. This is very useful when you are actually creating a Docker images, and then you have done all these things locally. Now you have to create a Docker image of it. This is how you go ahead and then do it. So there are different virtual environment which are there, where pip environment solves some of the virtual environment shortcoming which are there, and then how you could actually distinguish between prod and dev of the any other project. So this is so far what we have spoken. Now I would actually get into some bit of a code, not to a greater extent, but to some good point of the code which is there. So we usually talk about the methods, right? And the methods are, we define method on a class, then we invoke them via an instance of it, which is, and then we actually say if there is an attribute which is there on that object, yes or no, and then if it is there, we invoke that attribute which is there, right? And this is the process which goes for any of these things when it happens. So we define the method in a class. A method is called the part of the class, and then we try to invoke it by the instance, which means that I create an object of that method and then I try to invoke it. And if I try to invoke it, the static and the class methods are usually ignored. It is not, it is the object method which gets called. So we'll.
Yes.
Sir, how we create the virtual environment, sir?
Virtual
environment.
वर्चुअल एनवायरनमेंट में क्या होता है, देखिए जैसे आईडी जानते हो, आईडी
सर इंटेलिजेंस ब्यूरो।
हाँ, वर्चुअल एनवायरनमेंट मतलब जैसे ऑटोमेशन सब होता है ना, उसमें इस तरह का किया जाता है। ठीक है, ये चीजें इसकी चीजें जो है आपको अलग से, जब पाइथन आप सीख जाओगे तो उसके लिए अलग से आपको फिर सिखाया जाएगा, उसका अलग ट्रेनिंग होता है। ठीक है, वर्चुअल एनवायरनमेंट के लिए जैसे आप इंडस्ट्री में जाओगे तो वहां पे कैसे काम करना है, कैसे पाइथन को यूज करके तो वर्चुअल एनवायरनमेंट बनाओगे, ये सब चीजें बताई जाएगी वहां पे इंडस्ट्री में आपको। ठीक है,
फॉरेंसिक में भी बताया जाता होगा सर?
यस प्लीज
सर, फॉरेंसिक में भी बताया जाता होगा?
वन बाय वन यस। हाँ बताइए, अब एक आदमी बताइए पहले। यस, कोई एक बताइए पहले, हाँ फिर उसके बाद।
सर इंडस्ट्रीज में केवल पाइथन का ही यूज होता है या कोई और भी लैंग्वेज का यूज कर सकते हैं सर?
मैंने सारा कुछ समझा दिया था आपको, फिर मैं बता देता हूँ। मैंने क्या बोला, डिपेंड करता है किस तरह का इंडस्ट्री है, समझे? इंडस्ट्री के हिसाब से, इस इंडस्ट्री में किस तरह का प्रोडक्ट सॉफ्टवेयर बनता है उसके हिसाब से डिपेंड करता है। यदि मान लीजिए डीप लर्निंग हो, डेटा साइंस का इंडस्ट्री हो, मशीन लर्निंग वाला टाइप का इंडस्ट्री, तो वहाँ पे क्या यूज होगा बताओ? जावा यूज हो सकता है क्या वहाँ पे?
नो सर।
तो फिर वहाँ पे पाइथन होगा आपका। लेकिन जहाँ पे वेब डेवलपमेंट होता हो, जहाँ पे अदर काम होता हो, तो वहाँ पे जावा से होगा। ठीक है, तो ये डिपेंड करता है इंडस्ट्री पे, वो इंडस्ट्री पे डिपेंड करता है कि किस सेक्टर का इंडस्ट्री है। इंडस्ट्री मतलब ये नहीं सारा सॉफ्टवेयर बनता है तो सब पाइथन से ही बनाएगा और सारा जावा से, ऐसा नहीं होता है। सॉफ्टवेयर बहुत बहुत लैंग्वेज से बनते हैं। तो जो इंडस्ट्री जिस लैंग्वेज मतलब जिस सॉफ्टवेयर पे काम करता है, उसका रिक्वायरमेंट के हिसाब से वो लैंग्वेज यूज करेगा। ठीक है, सारे फीचर्स सारे लैंग्वेज में नहीं है, सबका अपना अपना एडवांटेज है। जहाँ पे सिक्योरिटी चाहिए वहाँ पे कोई और सॉफ्टवेयर यूज किया जाता है, जहाँ पे कम सिक्योरिटी की बात है वहाँ पे अलग सॉफ्टवेयर यूज किया जाता है। लैंग्वेज डिपेंड करता है आपके इंडस्ट्री के हिसाब से, आपके रिक्वायरमेंट के हिसाब से किस तरह का सॉफ्टवेयर आपको चाहिए। ठीक है,
पाइथन का कोई डिसएडवांटेज है या नहीं सर?
पाइथन का डिसएडवांटेज अभी आप वीडियो में क्या बताया गया था आपको? अभी किसी ने पूछा था ना डिसएडवांटेज, क्या बताया गया था?
यस सर, इसको मेंटेन करने में मतलब डिफिकल्ट होता है सर।
एवरी प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज है डिसएडवांटेज, सारे प्रोग्रामिंग में कुछ ना कुछ डिसएडवांटेजेस होते हैं, तभी तो कोई नया प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज आएगा ना। जैसे सी में क्या था, सी में कुछ चीज जैसे ऑब्जेक्ट, आपने क्लास ऑब्जेक्ट कंसेप्ट देखा होगा, इसमें सी में नहीं था। फिर एक लैंग्वेज सिमला आता है जो सबसे पहला ऑब्जेक्ट ओरिएंटेड लैंग्वेज है, उसमें आया। फिर उसके सी के फीचर्स को और सिमला जो ऑब्जेक्ट ओरिएंटेड लैंग्वेज है उसके फीचर्स को मिला के क्या बनाया गया? C++ बनाया गया। फिर C++ में भी कुछ कमियां थी, तो फिर कहाँ क्या बनाया गया? जावा आया। फिर जावा के बाद अब जैसे चीजें लैंग्वेज थोड़ा डिफिकल्ट थी, तो देखो नया लैंग्वेज है जिसको क्या कहते हैं? पाइथन कहते हैं। पाइथन का एडवांटेज क्या है? बहुत सारी लाइब्रेरी यहाँ पर है, उतना लाइब्रेरी किसी और प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज में नहीं होता है इतना यहाँ पर है, इसीलिए पाइथन आपका ज्यादा ब्रॉड होता है। डिसएडवांटेज ये है, मैंडेट करना मतलब क्या कहते हैं उसको, मेंटेन करना मुश्किल इसलिए होता है, इसे बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, मतलब एक वास्ट कंसेप्ट है पाइथन। जैसे ये आपको मशीन लर्निंग में भी यूज होता है, इसका यूज डीप लर्निंग में भी है, डेटा साइंस में भी है, तो हर तरह के चीजें जो वहां पे यूज होती है सारी चीजें आपको पाइथन में। तो आप चाहो सारा का सारा चीजें हम सीख ले, ये पॉसिबल है क्या? बताइए। नहीं, तो उसमें से आप उतना ही सीखेंगे जितना आपके काम का है ना, जितना आपके काम का है। मैथमेटिक्स में बहुत कुछ है, लेकिन आप वही पढ़ते जो आपके सिलेबस में होता है या आपके काम का होता है। वैसे ही पाइथन में भी बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, उतना मेंटेन करना, उतना सब कुछ याद रखना मुश्किल होता है। तो बहुत सारी लाइब्रेरी है, बहुत सारे पैकेजेस हैं वहां पे, बहुत सारे मॉड्यूल है, बहुत सारे आपके बिल्ट इन फंक्शंस है वहां पे, तो सबको याद रखना क्या मुश्किल होगा कि नहीं होगा?
यस सर।
ये एक प्रॉब्लम हुई ना यहाँ पे। तो उसके लिए बस यही सिंपल है कि अब सारे को याद रखना जरूरी नहीं है, हमें जिस फील्ड में जाना है जिस तरह का, उसी का चीज हम याद रखेंगे। बाकी जरूरत पड़ेगा तो आजकल देख के लोग कर लेते हैं वहां पे। आपको एग्जाम वहां पे थे, वहां पे आपको काम करना है, तो वहां पे आप कहीं से भी फ्री रिसोर्स, ओपन सोर्स, पता है पाइथन का ओपन सोर्स है, मतलब आप उसमें कहीं से भी कोई भी चीज आपको मिल जाएगी, कोई ऐसा रुपया परचेज करने की जरूरत नहीं होती है वहां पे। रुपया से आपको जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन सारा ओपन सोर्स है, आप कहीं जो भी चीजें आपको सीखना है सारा आपको मटेरियल फ्री में मिल जाएंगे। आप यही फायदा है किसका? पाइथन का। जैसे जावा में क्या है, कुछ चीजें पहले थी, अब जावा में भी बहुत सारी चीजें आपको परचेज करनी पड़ती है, बट पाइथन में ऐसा, जैसे PHP में ओपन सोर्स है, वैसे आपको पाइथन में क्या है? ओपन सोर्स लैंग्वेज। डिफिकल्टी बस यही है कि इसमें बहुत सारे लाइब्रेरी है, और सारे लाइब्रेरीज को, सारे पैकेज को याद रखना क्या है? बहुत मुश्किल होता है, होगा ना। तो फिर उसमें डिसाइड करते हैं आदमी, जो कि नॉर्मल जितना पाइथन आपने सीखा उतना सबको नॉलेज होना चाहिए। अब उसके बाद डिपेंड करता है कि यदि आपको किस फील्ड में जाना है, तो उस हिसाब से आप उन पैकेज को सीख लोगे। आपको मशीन लर्निंग में जाना है उसके पैकेज को सीखोगे, आपको डेटा साइंस में जाना है उसके पैकेजेस को सीखोगे, तो ये उसके बाद स्टोरी स्टार्ट होती है। ठीक है बच्चों, क्लियर है? और कोई किसी को डाउट था? बताइए
सर। हेलो सर, डंडर मतलब मीनिंग क्या होता है सर? DUNDER।
ये सब चीजें देखिए, ये सब चीजें इंडस्ट्री की चीजें हैं। इंडस्ट्री में जो डेवलपमेंट होता है ना, यहाँ लिखा हुआ देखिए, डंडर इज नथिंग बट डबल। These are magic function used by library creator. लाइब्रेरी क्रिएटर जब लाइब्रेरी क्रिएट करते हैं, मॉड्यूल बनाने वाले होते हैं, है ना, वो इसको यूज करते हैं फॉर और बेटर प्रोग्रामर टू अचीव थिंग्स वाइजली, मतलब काम को आसान कर ली। जब वो लाइब्रेरी बनाते हैं, जब कोई पैकेज बनाते हैं, तो इसका यूज करते हैं काम को आसान करने के लिए। तो ये वही चीजें अभी देखिए, ये सब चीजें जो इंडस्ट्री में काम किए हैं या जो काम करेंगे उनको काम आएगा ये। तो ये चीजें अभी आपको जानने की जरूरत नहीं, ये चीजें आपको बताया जा रहा है कि ये सब चीजें वहां पे होती है, लेकिन ये काम करे तो उनको पता है। हम भी उस फील्ड में काम करते हैं, हमें भी पता होता है, आप भी करोगे तो आपको भी पता हो जाएगा। तो ये सब चीजें हैं। कोई दिक्कत?
सर पाइथन का वर्जन कैसे अपग्रेड किया जाता है वो सब इंडस्ट्रीज में पढ़ाया जाएगा?
हाँ, जैसे आप मान लीजिए पाइथन है, पाइथन आया, आपने तो हर चीज का वर्जन अपडेट होता है। जैसे एंड्रॉइड का ही सुना होगा आपने, तो जो एंड्रॉइड कंपनी है या जो भी है वही ना उसको अपडेट करेगी ना, हम लोग तो नहीं कर सकते। हाँ, उसमें हम चाहे तो अपना कुछ ऐड, ओपन सोर्स का मतलब पता है क्या होता है, आप चाहो ना पाइथन में कुछ लाइब्रेरी आपने बनाया और यदि पहले से नहीं तो आप उसको अपने वहां पे अपने नाम पर रजिस्टर करवा सकते हो, ऐसा सुविधा है वहां पे। ओपन सोर्स का मतलब यही होता है कि यदि आप चाहो तो आप भी उसमें कुछ ऐड कर सकते हो, कोई और चाहेगा वो भी उसमें कुछ ऐड कर सकता है, ये फैसिलिटी दिया हुआ है पाइथन में। ठीक है, जैसे आपने मान लीजिए काम कि आपने कुछ नया चीज बनाया, उसमें कोई नया लाइब्रेरी बनाया, तो आप उनसे बात करके अपने नाम पे उसको आप ऐड करवा सकते हो, ये फायदा है। ठीक है बच्चों?
We'll see for that, right? So when we see in the Python code, any of the Python code, we would see something called the dunder or magic functions, which comes into picture. And dunder is nothing but a double underscore. It is called as a double underscore. So you say D and under. So double underscores method, these are also called as a magic methods, which are there. These are the magic methods which are used by usually a library creator or a better programmer, which you would be over the period of time while you write this, some of the methods within the classes which are double underscore, right? When you start writing object oriented thing, and you don't directly call this method. So for example, if I have a student class, right, class student, and then I create an object of it, s is equal to student, and I don't call s dot underscore that method. I don't usually call it. I just call s dot, and internally these methods are called based on the way it is being written, right? And these are some of the dunder methods are defined as a part of the this one, and then we'll see what are these dunder method. Two of the dunder method which are very famous are underscore string and underscore rep, right? This is how the object gets represented in Python. So rep actually says that how Python actually represents an object, and how the object, this entire thing is made up of, where as underscore string is like you want to print how the entire object structure as human readable format is what is done by underscore string. These are the methods which are implemented by the library creators. You could actually implement it for your own thing. For example, I have an account class, and then I wanted to actually show how exactly this happens, that I can see it over here, right? Like for example, let me see, take an example over here where I have a rep and then string, right? So for example, I would see that underscore rep is this method, underscore init is another dunder method, which is nothing but the your constructor which is there. And now this constructor gets called, you don't directly call underscore int, you call book, and then you say whatever is there, this book, this gets called by Python internally. Similarly, when I call print method, print b1, this calls this method appropriately. Let's actually see this. And sorry, I will go a bit fast over here, but these would be available for you to try it out, and then this one. So over here, if you see that there is a thing which gets printed, book name is Hello Python, whose author is AB. So the book name, I have actually put a curly braces, which means I'm actually going to provide in the format set.name, which is the book name which was there. Hello Python was the book name, and the author was nothing but the AB. So I actually just save this, and then I comment this part of it, and then I'll run this, right? So if I run this code, what happens? Let's see, right? The book name is Hello Python, which was this Hello Python is replaced over here, and whose author is Alabash. Now, this is the internal representation of the object which is there. I could actually change it or I could keep it. This you should prefer not to play with it without you knowing it, right? This underscore string is the way the string format when it is supposed to be printed has to be done, right? So this is the internal function. I'm not calling this function anyhow. I'm calling it with print b1. When b1 is invoked, this will call b1 dot string, which is nothing but this there. And then when I say that together, we have something called as underscore add.
Am I audible, everyone?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
ये सब चीजें आपने देखा था क्लास के वक्त जब बताया गया स्पेशल फंक्शन देखा था आपने?
यस सर।
स्पेशल फंक्शन हम लोग ऐसे बनाते हैं जब क्लास का कंसेप्ट आपने देखा था।
यस सर।
तो वहां पे ये सब कुछ फंक्शंस हैं, स्पेशल फंक्शन, जिसको आप अपने हिसाब से मॉडिफाई कर सकते हो। ठीक है, अपने हिसाब से कर सकते हो क्या मॉडिफाई। जैसे ऐड प्लस को आप जैसे ओवरलोडिंग पढ़ा था आपने?
यस सर।
ओवरलोडिंग तो वही चीजें हैं यहाँ पे, प्लस सिंबल को अपने हिसाब से ओवरलोड कर सकते हो। तो ये सब चीजें आपने पढ़ाई था, वही चीजें बताया जा रहा है यहाँ पे। बेसिक आइडिया है, आपको समझना है यहाँ पे कि
Python codes are in much less quantity than other languages codes such as C++. So, sir, is it advisable to use Python as a language for engineering undergrad, sir?
Python is used as an engineering undergrad language, right? Across the board, and the specific reason is like in engineering, what we do is a problem solving.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and problem could be solved with a language which is appropriate for that specific stuff. So Python actually solves most of the problem which are there, unless until for some of the problem you need C++. That is perfectly fine. So it's obvious that it is advisable.
I'm interested in real-time control applications, but what I have gathered is C++ is the language for because of its fastness is the language for most suited for that. But given that data-driven control and reinforcement learning going forward is how does Python fare for such applications compared with C++?
Yeah, good question. See, for control system, when you are interacting with hardware, I would still prefer using C, C++ or any language which is close to it, right? Because in real time, if you take any of the controls, this one from say Siemens or from any other thing, what you would have it is you would have the libraries which are already written, and then you would have a libraries on which you would write certain part of it. So obviously you would use C, C++ because you would have bindings available for it. But yes, you would actually pass to the C, C++ code, the crunch data, and then the decision which it has to take, and then C++ can actually take it forward from there. Now, the second question comes is like, can't I write the C++ code and then provide a Python binding for it so that people can write the code which is just required? Yes, people do that so that the errors and the other part of a parsing of that, all those things can be handled in Python, and then only the core execution part happens on C++, right? So you would write that core, you keep it in C++, and then the wrapper you write it in a Python. Now, one of the example is like TensorFlow. That TensorFlow is written in C++. The Python is just an overlay on it so that it becomes a popular, and then people use it. If you see it with any other library which is written in core C, C++, they are not so famous, though they are very performant and all those stuff. They are as performant as TensorFlow because that is written in C++. It is because of the Python binding which is there. It is actually taking that right now, because people know the Python as a language. So you will get more people to experiment, to do research, and to do the rest of the work which is there. Did I answer your question, sir?
Yes, very much. Thank you. For reinforcement learning, is this applicable?
Yes, for reinforcement learning, yes, there are libraries which are there. You could use Python by default and then write your own algorithms in it, or you could use the libraries which are there on which you would actually build the reinforcement learning part of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Who's the?
Hi. Good
Yeah.
morning, sir.
Good morning.
I have two quick questions. Whenever we write a Python code and we see whenever there is a small programs, we see they are very quick to execute.
Abhi, you are not audible now.
Am I not?
There is a lot of disturbance in the line. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, but okay. You are audible, but if you can put it in a chat, that would be easier for me to read and then answer your question. Sure. Thank you. So while I get that question, there is a question saying that using operator overloading, can we add more than two objects? See, operator overloading is usually for equal, plus, minus kind of a thing, right? So there are only two things it takes, and then it has to be the things which are it actually.
While share my slides.
Yes.
Okay. So just a minute. Let me try to share my screen. So you will tell me.
We started our PhD together and finished a nice summary of how Python
is already there. So thank you, all of us, and it's very nice to have you here on this last day, sharing the industrial perspective.
Because he is so busy in industry, so they have a lot of projects, but always he honors our request and then joins us. So today Ashish will be talking about application of Python in industry, but more focused towards artificial intelligence. And brief background means, again, Ashish is a very good friend. We know each other since around 2003. We started our PhD together and finished also almost together. And I started in industry and he went to academia, but very soon the things changed. Now he is in industry and I am in academia. So Ashish has experience of IIT Madras as well as TIFR. And then he worked in many industries, and the notable ones are Reliance Industries, where he was in the machine learning group, and now he is in Google Research, once again working in this area of machine learning and AI. And Ashish, as I said, his PhD work is also in machine learning, so which means he is there working in this area since around 2002 or 3, which makes him one of the early researcher within India at least, so who is doing state-of-the-art work. So without much ado, because otherwise it will take a lot of time from the session, I request Ashish to take over. So Ashish, to you, I have made you co-host, so you can share your slides and start.
Sure. Thank you, Ameya. Thank you for a nice introduction. And thanks for inviting me to this talk. Yeah, I'm actually talking from my village. And let's pray internet God that, they allow us to complete the session. Anyways, thank you. I'll switch off my video and I'll keep talking, and then once in a while share my slides.
Yes.
Okay. So just a minute. Let me try to share my screen. So you will tell me if anyways, which
Bhutani. So it's like more of like democratic in nature. Nothing. So Python, I guess they
platforms.
And regarding the slowness of this
Python JavaScript is, I think JavaScript is best, sir.
Yeah, JavaScript, but then you cannot write pure JavaScript, right? You should have some combination of like HTML and JavaScript and those kind of things. So again, I mean, it's all depend on the kind of application, the kind of performance that you're looking for, and you need to do some experiment to ensure that the functionality that you want to support is supported by that kind of mix.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Karthik?
Yes, sir. My question is, why is Python not preferred for game development and mobile app development? Any specific reason for that?
That is very interesting question, right? For game development, I think I'm not much idea about like what are the for any kind of development you need some kind of framework, right? So just like we have framework for Android app development, like Android Studio, which is like typically Java oriented, and we don't have any such like interface or like framework which we can use for writing Android applications for using Python. So I mean, yes, this is a limitation that as of now, I mean, if you want to write like Android applications, then you need to use some other platform than a Python platform. But yeah, there are now platforms coming up. I can give some links where we can make use of some part of like Python and yeah, write some mobile applications.
Ashish has joined back. So let's see if he's able to share his screen now.
Okay. Okay.
So Ashish, can you try sharing the
Hi.
screen now?
Yeah, I have some technical.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll try one
Yes,
second.
yes.
Yeah, but yeah, just a minute. Let's see if this works. Can you see my screen? Is it coming up?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, this is a bit difficult. I'm really sorry for this technical glitch. I usually start typing in a doc, so that's what I was planning, and that's why I want to share my screen. Let's see. I hope this works. If this doesn't, then it will be difficult. I can keep talking while.
So Ashish, if screen sharing does not work, maybe you can talk about a little bit about I mean, what kind of jobs people can think about, and because many of the people are interested, and then there are queries about if someone doesn't have a computer science background and has Python training, can they fit in industry? So maybe you can give a little perspective on that. If screen gets shared, then better. Otherwise, yeah, you can curtail your session, and then we will take more questions. Atul and we can answer them. Okay.
Yeah, that would be.